We would like to begin this episode by saying thank you to Liar, Murray Gatchin, Keith Boisvert, Ziggy Brennan, or Zygy Brennan, and Briar Thompson. All of these people have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked in money to support this show and others like it. You can be like them by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thank you.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Soma, which is a survival horror game developed and published by Frictional Games for the PC and contemporary consoles in 2015.
Indeed. And this episode was executive produced by Lucian.
Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you, Lucian. This is something you, Cole, and I have both talked about elsewhere, but never given the close-up treatment. And it's a fitting thing for Spooky Month. Because I was talking about this in the Slack, and I put this question to you, Cole, before we get into it.
Okay.
What other games are in like the sadness Hall of Fame? Because in playing this, I'm like, oh, this is the one of the bleakest, like saddest games.
Yeah, this is definitely like a particularly existential flavor of horror that I also was looking and seeing if anything just was associated with this, because it really is, like a pretty, philosophical kind of game that is pretty cynical. They're not cynical. It's bleak. I can't think of anything else that is like strictly like this that is not designed to be as much of a bummer as possible.
Like sad games are just not that common,
right?
Like there are games that are like, oh, I cried when Eris died. Oh, yeah. Like there's that kind of thing. But that's come on, like that's not sad like this is. And then there's like Silent Hill 2. It's very sad. When we were talking about in the Slack, someone brought up the Beginner's Guide. Beginner's Guide is a really sad game.
Yes, yeah. There are games with like moments of profound sadness in them. Like I would say the back third of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is pretty devastating, actually.
I find that game sad. That didn't totally work on me, but I think that also it's in the sad game Hall of Fame. Sad games are rare. And sad horror is really like a good combo.
It is. I quite agree.
Yeah, scary sad.
Yeah.
And this is bleak. This is bleak.
I mean,
bad things happen in this game.
Even just like the actual premise that it sets up is so completely, utterly hopeless. And even like a happy result in this ends up not being, there's no unqualified win associated with this.
Tons of caveats.
Yeah.
In this. So, and it's not actual sunlight or whatever.
Right.
Like the thing, this is a complex carbohydrate, which is part of why I love it so much. In this game, you play as a guy named Simon Jarrett, who is just a regular dude who has a fatal brain bleeding condition. So regular dude other than that.
It can happen to any of us. He doesn't have the fatal brain bleeding condition because of an X-Men power. It was a car accident.
No, he's not Bleedtor. Like he's not. They call me Hemorrhage at the X-Men.
Hemorrhage would be a Morlock. He would not be
it. No, this is big moral. There are lots of Morlocks in this game. He goes in for an experimental brain scan and wakes up in a facility at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, far, far in the future.
Yes. Also, a comet has wiped out all life on the surface of the planet Earth. The people in this facility, called Pathos 2, are the last, were the last humans alive. And there's really no hope of anything getting better because also trapped down here are the last remnants of humanity is an out-of-control AI. And it's structure gel, which is corrupting any life that it comes in contact with. Yeah, it's bad.
It's real bad, and it's all bad before you even get involved. Like,
yes,
we're gonna talk about this at length. This is gonna be very spoiler heavy and stuff. But I love that badness contrasted with the small act of like altruism you do in this game. I think that is just like, you know, you're not going to fix everything, but like, what could be more human than trying to do a little bit of good in the face of this?
Yeah.
You know, this is a follow-up to Amnesia, The Dark Descent, which we've also covered on the show. Plays similarly to that, where it is a first-person exploration and puzzle game with big immersive sim elements, actually, in this one. And more so than Amnesia, like these are more real spaces.
Yes.
With more environmental storytelling. And then also stealth elements.
Right.
Frictional's trick, it was always there's a really horrible monster stalking you and you can't do anything about it, as opposed to more traditional survival horror. And it's not they weren't the first people to do that, like Clock Tower did it as well, but that is where we're trucking.
Yes. You have scary monsters that are coming at you, and they are not just an assault on your avatar, they are an audiovisual assault as well, which is also Frictional's trick to a certain extent. Lots of distortion and stuff going on. So like you're going to spend the majority of your time here, you know, navigating this facility, navigating Pathos 2, and engaging in some like honestly pretty light puzzling to open your way forward. It's quite often just looking for the thing that you need to get, rooting through the areas. Again, this kind of like realistically portrayed space to, you know, find the way to open your path forward, you know, and guarantee your safety.
The puzzling level is somewhere between Amnesia and Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs.
Right.
Where A Machine for Pigs had no puzzles. Like it was just, this is missing a gear and the gear is across the room. There are some panel puzzles. There's some like lights out, you know, some kind of typical puzzly ass puzzles, but like going on. Similar
to Amnesia, The Dark Descent, oftentimes you will get to a place and there will be a machine that is broken and you need 3 parts, and those 3 parts are at the far ends of this area, and patrolling that area is something that will ruin you if it comes in contact.
Yes. They reuse that from the Amnesia collection.
Yeah.
For sure. There are a lot of different like items and notes to interact with. That's where a lot of the 0451 DNA comes from. There is a lot more text in this than anything else Frictional has done.
Yes.
This is a storytelling game. Even so much so you can hear recent conversations of people who have died, either by checking intercoms or their corpses.
Yes.
Similar to like the ghost in a System Shock. Or such.
It's like it's a data buffer. You can touch it and then hear it because every person has a black box installed. This has has elements of a corporate dystopia as well, although that's not the main thrust of this. You know, there are elements there. Yep.
A good note to just put the absolute spoiler warning is that there's a couple twists in this game, handled various ways, and we're not going to mess around with any of them. So if you're interested in this game, we're going to spoil the shit out of it.
Yeah,
so
probably starting from like right now.
Yeah, the fact that you're pulling from black boxes, you know, which are not, you know, it's not like a black
Why didn't
book.
they make the entire person out of the black box, Gary?
Well, they tried. Now you're sounding like a structure gel right there. That's a wow perspective. Whose side are you on? There's almost no inventory to this. Amnesia had an inventory system. This does not really have one.
You have a button to press to see like an icon of the things that you're carrying, but you're not like making room for stuff or like really like gathering any resources. Really,
no consumables. Right. You know, no lamp oil or anything. No batteries or anything like that. You do get a flashlight partway through, or realize you have always had a flashlight partway through, but you don't have to do anything with that other than just use it.
Yes. As we said, enemies are present. It's always one per area, and all you can really do is run and hide. Even like hiding is different. Like there are no wardrobes or anything you can climb into, like in Dark Descent. You know, it's usually find a corner, find something to hide behind. I actually appreciate that as opposed to having like just a spot, because if there is a hiding spot, all that means is that there's just a like dice roll. Yeah, it's like you go there and then there's like a dice roll about whether or not the enemy will decide to go for it, as opposed to just checking to see if you are generally visible in this room. And these enemies are super spooky. Like if you look up, you know, actual like photographs of them, there's really good body horror going on in this. Generally, all of the, you know, the most of them used to be human or biological creatures. There are some who kind of went the other way, started machine like, and then, or started as machines and then were kind of converted into more biological things. But they're all like really well designed and scary looking. The sound design when they're coming after you is really, really good. And the distortion that plays as they like mess with your visual processing is a great echo of the sanity effects from Amnesia, I think. Yes.
Yeah. It's got, you know, obviously, I'm sure we talked about this with Amnesia, but that like idea of getting electronic interference when there's an enemy is a big Slender Man thing. I feel like that was very influential on to horror media in a weird way.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the first time that's happened where the camera starts fucking up whenever this happens, but that's what this reminded me of.
Yeah.
And it is very scary. Another difference between this and the monsters of Amnesia is there are a greater variety of them.
Yeah.
The initial enemies are dumb, but they eventually become more aware and can do things like open doors. There are more gimmicks. Like there's an enemy who can't hear you.
Yeah.
Or who can hear you but can't see you. You know, things like that. Like there's more variety in the enemies.
Yes.
That you'll run into.
Yeah, there's one who can like teleport. Yeah, it's good to, it's fun to try and figure out what those are, because it's not always directly apparent what that is. Oftentimes, you know, you're going to be reading about how this thing was made, right?
Yes.
What circumstances led to it evolving the way that it did. And
you put on an episode of how it's made.
Yes.
In the 0451 engine and just see this person being tortured until they can barely wheeze.
They added how it's made to Hulu, and I've been using that as a way to take naps.
That's a real poison.
Yeah.
Like a good poison though.
Yeah. So, yeah, enemies are good, and I like that they evolve. If an enemy gets to you, they'll either like hit you and do some damage, or you know, depending on the difficulty that you're playing on, they will knock you over. And you will be unconscious for a while, and you wake up. You end up like limping. You know, when you're damaged, it affects your move capability. You don't pick up items to heal. Instead, there are one-time use healing nodes located throughout the map. Like the general thing that is corrupting this station, this entity called the WoW, has kind of like created these nodules that look like, I'm just going to say this the crudest way possible. It looks like space anuses that you fist.
If you like sticking your hand into anuses,
yes,
this game is for you, because you do it all the time, and it's one of the climactic moments of the game is you fisting an AI. So like that sounds exceedingly 2020 and horny. Like somebody out there is like, "Oh, you fist an AI? Call Christine Love. Like let's do this." Like, but it's not like that.
No, no. I mean, like it's more playing in just a general like Giger, psychosexual, mechanosexual kind of space with this.
Yeah. They're 100% space anuses, though.
Yes.
And in no universe is this, you know, it's not us being puerile. That's just what they're coded as.
Like on the big one, there's kind of there's the actual like double muscle kind of thing going on there. Like it's a thing. So
explicit.
Yeah. And I have no idea what Frictional is trying to say with that, other than again just doing like an HR Giger kind of thing.
I think it's just sticking your hand in a thing.
Yeah, you're never sure if you're going to pull it back. Yeah,
it can be scary. You know? Unlike other Frictional games, this is not lonely. This is not a solo experience. You have a companion that acts like missile control that you get relatively early in the game.
You said missile control, and that's very fun to me.
She functions as a game of missile command. As she functions as kind of mission control, and this does two things. Like, one, it changes the tone a little bit because this is less scary than other fictional games in a general sense. But two, it accounts for a lot of that text.
Yes.
This game is more novelistic than like a lot of fictional games. This is saying stuff with words.
Yes.
That is a form of storytelling through dialogue, through environmental storytelling, but not purely just through like atmosphere, even though there is plenty of that. Like, this is more of an affront on all sides in terms of storytelling.
Right. She also gives you direction. She is somebody who is from this time, and she worked at this facility. She's very smart, and she knows what was going on. She knows how things work. She can help you solve problems, and basically will run down, hey, go do X, Y, and Z. Or try this thing if you want to. There are moments of quiet in this. Like, she only really speaks when you plug her into a console, because she's
a Game Boy.
Yeah, she is a Game Boy that you carry around. Sometimes when you plug her in,
she's a Game Boy Advance. Very, very good big computer.
Yeah, and so sometimes you can plug her into to a terminal in a particular area. She'll speak over the PA. But there are times where you unplug her, and you unplug her while you are going and using your Game Boy, your Omni tool, as your tool to get around.
As a tool, as some kind of omniscient tool.
Yeah. I was trying to find a different word for that, but couldn't. Yeah.
Implement. Universal implement.
Simon calls it the door opener.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. That's what I would think of it as.
Yep.
If I was there. Her name is Catherine. I really like Catherine as a
Catherine's
character.
Great.
Yeah, the really, really good companion character. Like, if you're going, we talked about this in a couple episodes ago with Mimir and God of War, but if you're going to have a companion character, make them really good. If a character is going to be with me, talking to me the whole game, like, you got to put a lot of care into that.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did.
Frictional's done a good job with this in the past, too. I mean, I remember in Penumbra Overture, Red was a very good voice in your ear. Right.
I didn't like Red.
I felt like
Red was.
Oh,
I think. Well, I'm trying to remember. The one of them that had the big uncle energy. Who's the pervert uncle that you have in your head in the old Penumbra games?
It's so you're thinking of Penumbra Black Plague, where you have the guy who has like the New York.
That's who I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
You got
Dr.
Sucked. Girlfriend in your head. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Red's the guy who grew up in the facility and is completely insane and is giving you bad advice.
I think I do like Red. It's been a while since I played the Penumbra sequels. But yeah, the third one where you get like, hey, gotta love the Mets, baby. And I'm like, what the fuck is this game? I'm so scared because I don't know where to get a good slice. It's like, it's fucking terrifying. Where can I get a hot beef?
Hot beef.
I need a hot beef. The tears of being hungry and needing a nosh. That's what the third Penumbra game is like.
That's
and we'll never speak of it again. Second, yeah. Oh, the third one is just that weird puzzle collection.
Yeah,
basically. It's not quite, but
that's terrible. I fucking hated that so much.
Yeah, they course corrected.
Yeah.
So we mentioned this is very story forward, and the kind of themes of this deals with like transhumanism, nature of consciousness, the soul, artificial intelligence, like what it means to be human, hope, hopelessness, things like that. Like it is a highway towards the bad thinking zone.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. You're going to find yourself, confronted with these situations, basically being quizzed on what defines a living being and like how much can be stripped away from somebody before you stop considering them to be technically alive is a huge deal of this, which is why I call it an existential horror game, not just because of like what you end up getting into with like problems of duplication and like weird, just like an excellent take on quantum suicide actually. But like just generally, when do you stop being you? Like, what is the nature of identity? Like, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's worth noting that it's all stuff that does not show up in video games very often.
Yeah,
like some of these themes are not rare for like Philip K. Dick 70s paperbacks, but are pretty rare in the milieu of a horror video game.
Yeah, like a lot of the time it's pretty much just like if AI is involved, it's going to be an AI that has gone rogue or gone bad, and that's here. Right, but like what the WoW,
but the way it's gone bad is very interesting.
Is super interesting, and like it ultimately like it lends itself to like some ambiguity about whether or not what you're doing is right.
Everything in this, every choice you make in this game is ambiguous, and in a way to me that feels earned, because if you're role playing it, I genuinely, it's tricky in concepts that I actually have a foot in, right? And if I'm role playing it, I can see the argument for both sides of every decision you make in this game.
Yeah.
Really strongly. Like this is like split the room, like the game, like, is this the right thing to do? Yeah. And there's also, I want to give a warning early on, is that if you haven't played the game, and like my opinion is it does this very well. There are parts though where we're going to be like, what if this? And we're going to sound real Joe Rogan-y. During this, like there's like an element of like stoner thought experiment almost to some of this that is like you have to buy in, like you have to be like, okay, I'm gonna confront this game on its own level. It is worth asking this question of like, is it murder to erase a copy of myself?
Right.
And like, if I took a huge bong rip before asking you that, I'd want you to kick me out of your party. Like that would be really obnoxious. Like, take your acoustic guitar, go home. But since it's actually portrayed like really well, like it's not, not all of the performances are always perfect, and some of the writing is very direct, which like I want to talk about. Yeah. But like it is a thing where it's not, again, it's a complicated carbohydrate. It's going to sound like we're at Denny's at 2 a.m. and we're in high school and we stayed up all night to practice for a forensics thing and we're just having fun. But I promise it's adult time. Yeah,
and like the game is, confronting you to make decisions about this, and we can talk about the mercy kills that are present here. It confronts you with this, and like everything that you are seeing throughout this station is broadly like forcing you to consider whether it is the mind or the body that should have primacy here. Broadly, if we're past the spoiler wall here, broadly, you and Catherine are working to preserve the mind and the soul, whereas the WoW, the mind and the soul with no regard to the body. The body doesn't matter, whereas the WoW,
maybe the soul.
Yes,
like we're working to preserve the mind 100%. Yeah, the soul is always a question mark in this. Yeah, and the WoW is working to preserve the body.
Yes, no matter how horrifying the consequences are, and no matter how many eggs it needs to break, basically to create monsters on the way. And like by the end of this, hey, how we talked about how the enemies got more sophisticated? The WoW's kind of getting a handle on this.
Yep.
So who knows, if left to its own devices, if the WoW would have actually accomplished a better version of what you are trying to do.
Yeah, saved humanity if we let it. We do not know. And it's a choice. Like, it's presented to you as like the thing you have to do as a climactic moment to shove your hand into that ultimate anus. But you actually... it's the last one. Yeah. The penultimate anus came before that. It healed me. But it is, again, every decision in this, I think, is actually pretty nuanced in a way that is very rare for video games. Like, it doesn't happen very often in video games. You get your big daddies and stuff. Like, this isn't that. So Simon, let's talk about Simon.
Simon is the reason why when I first played this game, I really didn't care for it, actually. I've come around on it, and I like it quite a bit, but Simon's portrayal is he is an active damper, I think.
Simon is a rough putt.
Yeah.
Here's what I would like. Here's the thing here's my defense of Simon, because it didn't bother me the first time. Our main character, this is in many ways a horror game about motivated reasoning. Right? Like Simon, and also playing it again, this is kind of what I thought about it when I first played it, and playing it again cemented this for me, where like Simon is not the only person who is refusing, or is engaging in magical thinking in terms of self-preservation, right?
Yes, Catherine very much is as well.
Catherine and everyone on the ship, there's a whole suicide cult who basically makes a guess, because the horror of this game, part of the buy-in for the horror of this is buying that the idea of not being is too hard to take. right? Like this is too big for the brain, and the brain will do a lot of stuff to reject that idea.
Yeah.
You know? So like Simon in this thing is a fairly broad performance, and Simon has to have things explained to him many times.
Yeah.
And he ultimately doesn't get it. And the game at first, it's like, yes, I can see why this is annoying, because it's like when you're doing a horror thing at all, why is the main character an idiot?
Yeah.
Like if the character is acting dumb, that can be really rough. I think this is a rare example where it's really justified, though. Like even at the end, like Catherine is like, you fucking idiot, I cannot explain this to you any more times. Like the game is doing it intentional. It's not, Simon is an accidental moron. He's forgetting these things because, and there are in-universe reasons. Like he has brain damage. They talk about how he was made as like a flat copy.
Yeah.
He's not as sophisticated as the later versions.
He's like one of the first scans that was made. Yeah.
Yes, the first. But it's like you also, if you woke up and someone said, hey, you're a copy of you, and pointed over to another version of you in the room and said, that's the real you, you switched bodies. No one who's listening to this would believe it. Every single person who has continuity of conscience would not buy that. No matter how many times it would be explained, no matter how emphatically it was shown to them, I don't think that the human brain can believe that it's not real. Like,
wait, you don't think the human brain can believe that it's real?
Or that's not real?
That it's
not
real.
I'm not the real version of me. If I'm conscious,
right.
Like I think that my meanness is something that no amount of evidence will ever persuade.
Right.
And that's what's at work here. And the last little bit where he doesn't figure out that, that he's fucked is just hope. He went through a really hard thing and he wants to hope. That's what a lot of the people here were doing. Like this game has a lot to say about like the humanity and humanness of hope, whether it's foolhardy or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It read really human to me.
Yeah, so that's a well put case, and I didn't consider that before. I think what I ran up against was a little bit it being kind of complicated by the fact that you are playing in first person, and Simon is supposed to be the voice of you. And when Simon doesn't get it and is acting kind of contrary to my own understanding of what is happening here, that disconnect there where the game is like kind of like tacitly saying like, okay, you as the player do not understand this, is pretty frustrating, because this is a game that is presenting a lot of choices to you, but not really, because of the scenario, there's no other choice than to do what you are doing. There's no way to actually get the good result.
Yes.
It's hemming you in, but it is presenting it as avatar ignorance, which can be confused for player ignorance.
Yes. And that's a weird mixed bag of like, I think that I agree with that, right? Like this is, if you can start thinking of this as a story of Simon instead of a story of you, it works a lot better.
Yeah.
It needs to be done as a game though, and have you in there because it's dealing with, the consciousness is also riding one-to-one with the player control.
Yes.
Right? Like it's also very hard for me as a player to not invest my avatar with some trueness.
Right.
Like when you switch bodies to the deep sea body partway through this, I'm not like, oh, that guy in the cage is really Simon. No, the camera moved over. I'm using WASD to control this is Simon.
Yeah.
I think that's, it had to be a game, but also you have to dissociate yourself from the character a little bit. Because I would agree with you that like, I think that when the game is explaining this, they're explaining it to Simon, and I think they're being deft about him not getting it. If you feel like the game is explaining it to you like you're an idiot, I can understand how that could feel bad.
Yeah, and like that also led to the feeling that they were being extremely repetitious with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like, why are you taking time to explain this again? I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
but Simon didn't get it, so that's not on you. That is on the game, right? Like they could have toned it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And still probably gotten across Simon's like willful ignorance in the face of something that is literally incomprehensible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think they did a perfect job of that either. Like playing it again, even I was like, okay, Simon, but I was also, maybe it's just the 2020 brain, but I was more sympathetic to Simon in this
Yeah.
than I was when I first played it. Like, because boy, I sure would like there to be more than this.
Yeah.
Like, because this fucking sucks, and if this is it,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Tell me there's a hidden track, man.
Yeah, like, that would be cool. I get it, man. I'm also motivated by that reasoning.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I sounded kind of, negative there, and I still believe that that's a problem. This is the third time that I've played it, and this is something kind of strange. Each time that I've gone back to it, I've actually, my appreciation has grown. I played it once for Daddy. Once it was just something I played for fun. The second time on a stream
Mommy.
where for all of the mommies, for all of our audience who are our mommies. No, where I horrified people with just how cavalier I was about pulling people's plugs. Fucking Dr. Sleep in here, man.
The Duckfeed mercy kill quotient remains. Like, euthanasia, the Duckfeed promise. Like, we're down for it. Suffering sucks, man.
Yep. And then this time for the show where I was paying really close attention and taking notes and reading wikis and stuff. My appreciation of it has grown, and that is rare in games. Actually, usually on repeated playthroughs, you end up, kind of seeing the seams, unless it is something you already really, just like loved intrinsically, and replaying it is a bit of a ritual to kind of like reenact playing it for the first time.
Yeah.
This is something different where I started out being kind of like meh about it, and then really came around to appreciate what it was saying and a lot of the ways that it was saying it. So
I think this game ages really well.
yes.
Like, it aged well for me. Since I played it and playing it again, I had a similar experience where I actually appreciated it more. It's really good looking.
Yep.
Like, from a design perspective and just in general, these environments look really good. Really great underwater bleakness. Like,
yeah.
And, I haven't played Subnautica yet, so I know that's supposed to be really good at this, but I am in the pocket for being in the scary parts of underwater, and this game does a good job of that.
Yeah.
And the sound design is really good. I love there is a song. It's not even really a song, but one of the Pursuit melodies sounds like a galloping heartbeat. Like, they replace the bass drum with like a heartbeat.
Oh, nice.
Sound of it. And it's really cool. Like, there's some really good music and stuff in this as well. Yeah.
I even like just like the spacey, just like, hey, something magnificent is happening. Like, something awesome in the sense that it inspires awe. Like, there are some real like twinges of like Vangelis in this. Yes. Vangelis, something going on. Lots of really good future synth kind of things happening. Which like is actually, it feels super appropriate because the bottom of the ocean might as well be an alien planet. You might as well be in outer space. Yes. Well, of course. Yeah.
It's a future sci-fi game.
Yeah. But yeah, music is fantastic. So they started working on this in 2010, pretty much right after they wrapped on Amnesia, The Dark Descent, which is kind of like, I don't know, it seems weird to me because it feels like so much time passed in between those. That was like a weirdly long 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lead developer, Thomas Grip, says that they pretty much decided to set it on the ocean floor on a whim, and everything else was kind of dictated by that. That was a good decision. The actual environment in this is nice and impressive.
So there are files within the game's distribution that hint at kind of an earlier version, which is called Vertical Shift. The story was really different. The surface was wiped out by a global war instead of a comet. There's other things on the wiki as far as kind of cut content that relates to this stuff, including enemies and even the names of enemies that show up now. There used to be a faction war underneath the water between people who thought, basically the game's central conflict used to be represented by factions where there were fleshers who people thought humanity had to be as human as possible. And there are enemies in the game that are called fleshers. They used to be kind of like troopers for this movement, and now the movement doesn't really exist. So they kind of Dark Souls 2'd it in like restarting the story, but reusing parts of it that they had already created.
Yeah. I would like to read more about that. And see some of those because definitely sometimes when I was looking up like what is the name of this particular thing, it didn't add up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the sound design here. Really, one of the only production details that I could find was that they paid real extra special attention to the sound design process. Basically, they didn't simulate any spaces in this. They, like, if a sound needed to sound like it was recorded in a large place, they went and they recorded it in a large place. And repeated for small spaces, etc. They say this like wound up with them recording 2,000 different footstep sounds. Cool. It's hard to say that that's a neat thing to have done. I don't know if it like necessarily came through. That might just be one of those things where it's, because it is so good, the fact that you did notice it is evidence that it worked. But
yeah. There's probably an element of like experimentation. They just did that because it was like, let's give this a shot and see if it makes a difference. I don't think they were like, everyone's going to notice this. Mm-hmm. It's totally possible that was like, I know I've told this story before, but like a creative parable that I love is that like John Mouse took something like 5 or 6 years between my favorite album he's done and the next one. Mm-hmm. And the reason why was because he made all of his own synthesizers. Mm. And then after an interview, he was like, yeah, that was totally wasted time. This doesn't sound any different than what I could have done with store-bought stuff. And I was like, yeah, sometimes it do be like that. Like people love to fetishize a process, and sometimes the end results actually don't bear out any of that work. Mm-hmm. And it's like just the idea that that's like a real reality. Like the amount of work you put into something does not necessarily reflect on the output.
Yeah.
I think is something that's worth considering as a creative person.
Yeah.
This game was received well by critics. It sold enough, Frictional considered it a success. It received some heat when it came out because of expectations, I think. If you go all the way back to our Amnesia episode, the little sketch we did at the beginning of that was premised on the fact that it was too scary to finish. Mm-hmm. This is a significantly less scary game in that respect.
Yeah.
And the negative reviews that I did see referred to that. Like, people were expecting, like, to just get the balls scared off them, like just absolutely be terrified. But this is more like haunting, as opposed to scary. And I think there was some expectation issues with that.
Mm-hmm. It's also, it's really something that I'm just noticing, just over years of really paying attention to horror games, and the way that they are talked about in the press, like criticizing something for how scary or not scary it is. It almost ends up coming across like a kind of like a meaningless rubric to hold up against it. Like to say like it's like the problem light on Gargantua 1 in the Venture Brothers, right? Just like, oh, there's just a light that indicates whether or not there is a problem, and it's up to you to figure out where. To say like, oh yeah, Soma isn't scary, or it's not as scary as Amnesia. Like that almost is a meaningless piece of criticism to me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't reflect on an intent at all.
Yeah,
like this was meant to be scary with the monsters coming around, and it's worth noting that like. So we should talk about the safety mode as well here. But it's it was meant to be scary, but I think that it would take like some willful obtuseness to think that Frictional was not trying to shift where this scares you.
Yeah.
The monsters are there, and the monsters in this one, as opposed to being kind of the point, right? Like the most memorable thing about Amnesia is the invisible water monster to me.
Yeah.
Like I remember that more than I remember any of the plot. Of that game. This game is not that. Like those are meant to change the pacing, to sell the threat, to activate a little bit of adrenaline in you, but not meant to be the stake.
Right.
That's a side dish in this one, and that's really intentional. And it's a side dish so much that like some people were, that was kind of the first wave was like, this isn't scary enough. The second wave was, hey, this is really existentially interesting. I can't deal with something chasing me in the dark. Let's mod that out.
Yeah.
And people modded it out, and then Friction added a mode that got rid of the monsters and turned this into a walking sim.
Right. Well, it didn't like get rid of the monsters. The monsters are still there. Yeah. They just won't kill you.
Yeah, they don't chase you.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of like wander around.
Which is a pretty good way to handle it, because
I think so too.
Like those are cool designs, and they're part of the story too. Like how do you have Theta without Terry Akers running around?
Yeah. Yep. You could not get rid of the monsters in this.
Yeah.
So like, and we both played monster version. All the times. I like the monsters in this. I like the scary parts.
Yeah,
I think they help
fun.
the pacing.
It's fun mechanics. Yeah.
But if the mechanics sound bad to you, like if you are not a scary game person, play it on safety mode and get the existential horror, haunted, questioning what a soul is.
Yes,
version.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is very deft, and there is not much. There is not much like it. Did you watch any of the prequel shorts, the transmissions?
I did not. I read about them a little bit, but I read that they were a little mediocre, so I didn't.
Yeah, they're not that great. I watched one of them. It's just hard. It's hard to do this kind of sci-fi on that low of a budget as like a promotional kind of thing. So it's a prequel. There's an important character who is deceased by the time you arrive. Fuck, that actually describes everybody. Shit. Yeah. There's a character. Or does it? Ooh.
Are they deceased, Cole?
Yeah. The
is
main,
it Imogen? Imogen's in there?
Yeah. Imogen is the main character of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was something that is cool. I'm just going to put this here because I'm excited about it. They just announced a release date for Amnesia Rebirth. Frictional going back to their well. Will it be scary enough? Who knows? Let us hold this vaguely defined criteria up to their old work and beat a studio over the head with the idea that they'll never be as good as that thing they made 10 years ago.
I really wish it wasn't called Rebirth because every time I read it, I feel like it's a remake.
Yes.
You know, because that's a name you give to a remake of something. And it's like, I don't want a remake or up-res version of Amnesia. Like, that'd be fine. But I'm glad it's a sequel.
Yes.
Actually, a sequel. So let's, I'm excited about that. That comes out, like, as you're hearing this, like, real soon.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
We start out in Simon's apartment, waking up in one of the least horrific zones possible. There's a pull quote here from Philip K. Dick. Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away, which is pretty pertinent.
It is.
And we have a dream as we're sleeping here before we wake up.
Yes. This is presented a little bit jarringly. It's out of engine. Like, this is done through illustrations. But Simon is in a car. And he's bleeding from his head. There's somebody in the car with him. This woman named Ashley, who is his friend that he has these feelings for. He's about to tell her something, but then his phone wakes him up. And
the phone is Dr. Munchie, which I love thinking of it as Munchy or IE.
Oh, like
hey guys, Dr. Munchie called.
like a minor character from the Pac-Man cartoon.
yeah, like, you know, or just like when you get high and then somebody's like, I got a prescription from Dr. Munchie, and like pulls out a new breed of Dorito, a new strain,
1,000 cc's of Funyun stat.
Yeah, but he's like, are we still on today? Simon, remember to drink the tracer fluid before you come in.
Right. And
Simon does not remember where the tracer fluid is. This is the first brain damage thing that pops up. When we're kind of looking around, we see that his email, like his coworker called and it was like, hey, are you coming in? He's like, no, that idiot. Like, I told him I wasn't coming in, but he forgot to hit send on the email. Like, Simon is forgetting things.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And living in squalor.
Yeah, like it is obviously the apartment of a depressed person, let's say.
Yep. Mail is piled up.
Yeah, it's not sad because it's small. It's sad because of all of the hints that he is somebody who has been given a death sentence. Right.
Yeah.
And like, if you go through his email, like you find, messages from his doctors talking about his condition, talking about like, hey, stress can be fatal for you. So we're giving you these, anti-anxiety medications, even like bad dreams can make this rough, which fuck, if I had to worry that if I had a nightmare, I was going to die.
That's really, that's insidious. They could have made the whole game about that. So you drink the juice, you like it a juice, and then you get on the subway to the office. Your coworker calls. You work at a bookstore called the Grimoire, and you have a good relationship with your coworker, this guy Jesse, who knows you're going. And he's like, "No, we got this covered. Go get your brain scan, buddy." I hope they find a way to reverse this this whole dying thing going on. And this is, he's casual about it, and you call him out on it, and it's just like, this has been the truth for months. Like at some point you can go into the mourning part of knowing you're going to die and wear all black and wail and throw yourself on things. But at some point real life starts again.
Yeah. You have things you're not dead yet. Yeah. It just, I really like the way that this comes across. Additionally, like Ashley comes up in this. She died in the accident, so not only are you dealing with grief for yourself, but also you're mourning your friend and somebody you had really strong feelings for. She was a coworker at the Grimoire. Just a sad situation all around.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
I love when you get to this office because this seems creepy to me. Knowing this was a horror game, the first time I played this, I was like, oh shit.
This is bad. This is like ethically dubious. Like this is a real fly by night. Like they just hermit crabbed into an office that was under construction. Yep.
This is Eternal Sunshine shit, where they're making the and we're just kind of getting a little bit of a preview of what the gameplay will be like. Finding codes to get into doors, things like that in this office. And when you get in, and you talk to Dr. Munchie. He kind of basically explains the idea. He's not a doctor. We keep calling him Dr. Munchie, but he's Mr. Munchie. At this point, he's hoping to be a doctor. And his idea is that he's going to make a scan of your brain and send it through the simulation of all the stimulus, like way faster than they could do in real life, to hopefully find a cure for your brain bleeding.
Yeah, like this is part of his doctoral research.
Yes, to rapidly prototype solutions for brain blood that you've got going on. And he's just like, you sit in a chair. It's like, a camera.
Yeah. And Simon says, the Indians thought that cameras would steal your souls. And you have like a little laugh about that. Munchie's like, hope not. And Munchie says, say cheese. And the scan goes through. There's a flash of white light. And then you wake up. Like right away. There's like a little bit of the disorientation. You're sitting in a chair that is similar to the one that you were in, but you're in this dingy and busted up room with like diving suits. They look like space suits on the wall.
Yes,
and you're locked in. Like the doors will not open. The computers that are here will not work. You are not in Dr. Munchie's lab anymore.
No. And I love the aesthetic of the technology in this. It reminds me a lot of Alien.
Yeah, it's like, we have really high technology, but this is still an industrial, like corporate application. So it's not going to be
working
like
class
nice.
future.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that as like an aesthetic. Like, reminds me so much of Alien. You have to bust out, and you do it by throwing something through the window. Here, again, kind of teaching you a trick that you'll be using to get through. You get our first like data buffer, data buffle that you can do here, where you hear radio chatter when you touch this thing, and it just shows a little like PlayStation Plus sign when you see it. It's not, there's nothing to suggest what's actually happening.
Yeah, it should be noted when you hold your hands out, it still looks like a human hand. The reveal of this is actually so good and one of the best handled things. It is just a chef kiss moment in this. Yep.
Because, you could have guessed right at this point, we are now your brain going through different stimuli. Like we wanted to test to see if we can fix the bleeding, and we figured underwater lab was the first test.
Yeah.
This is the one we thought had the best success.
Yeah. We decided to set up an allegory to help you process your grief. So here's
like, here it's bleeding all over this brain as well. Because as you're kind of going through, we see all this goo. There's this black goo just dripping from like everything here. And it's forming these attachments on these machines, on these different like robots, and like clink, clink, you're dead robots, not cool androids. Like these are industrial robots.
Yeah. Like one of them, like it's just a helper robot that is just in a bay attached to a wall, like for charging and stuff. Like it was not really meant to walk around, really. Yeah. You walk by and like it comes to life and does a little haunted house scare. And then you go around to the other side of this room. You get a buffer from another one of these. It's a technician talking to the robot and taunting it about wanting structure gel. Like, oh, you want this, don't you? Look what I've got.
Yeah, you want Daddy's cummies. The structure gel.
Daddy's pure ink black cummies. Jesus Christ, dude.
I just imagine that like a Haribo logo.
Oh, more upsetting than anything that happens in the game. But when you walk like back around the partition to leave the room, you know, the robot that jumped up and startled you, it's gone now.
Yeah, it gets up and leaves.
Yeah,
which is spooky. We can kind of continue following this destruction to this workshop door, and as we get closer, there's some distortion as you get near it, and then you get bowled over by something that screams when you open this door. Get kind of knocked down by this distortion effect.
Yeah.
So this hurts you. You're limping, but you walk into this workshop and get your Omni tool, your Game Boy. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing a lot more of this black stuff, including this wall tumor kind of thing that has ripped a person apart. Mm-hmm. Their head is gone, missing. Yeah.
And there's a door that is obviously meant to get you to a new section of the place, but you can't open it because the Omni tool is incomplete. So you need to take it back to where you woke up to get the right chip to put inside of it. There's an orientation video on this terminal that you can opt to watch. It's narrated by security operative John Strohmeyer, kind of the person who de facto runs the place, really. Mm-hmm. He is in a place called Theta. You have woken up in, like Upsilon, something like that.
Upsilon.
Yeah. And he says, like, hey, you might think that you're able to, you know, like you're a technician, you should be able to go anywhere there are problems. Tough luck. Technicians don't get to go everywhere they want. You need like clearance and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So with your Omni tool now, you put this tool chip into it, and you can now kind of get around, open more doors and stuff.
Yeah.
The way that screens and stuff in this work a little bit reminded me a little bit of upcoming game Doom 3.
Yeah.
A little bit, where like oftentimes you're interfacing with these touch screens directly. Mm-hmm. With your mouse. And this game also has the frictional trick of like being able to open drawers and stuff. Like you control a hand largely with the mouse that can move things around.
The door that you open with the Omni tool gets you out into this little walkway where it reveals for sure you were at the bottom of the ocean. This was the moment where I was really surprised when I initially played this, because I was on such a lockout when I heard that this was sci-fi. I knew this was sci-fi. I thought, oh, it's going to be in space. It's going to be like a System Shock thing. Learning that it was at the bottom of the ocean was a real flip of expectations for me.
Yeah. Yep. It looks great. Mm-hmm. When you look out, like it looks super good in a way that only the ocean can look.
Yeah.
So the first room we get into in here is the security room. There is another polyp made of this structure gel. This is our first anus. Mm-hmm. And when you finger it, you get healed. So
when it looks like you just have a human hand, all you do is like gently touch it, like you're just brushing against a flower. Yeah, it's not till it's revealed what you actually are. Just waking it up, just getting it ready.
Yeah,
you don't. Yeah, you don't start going full, elbow deep until it reveals what you actually are. And I love what that says about the human mind's self-censor there.
Yeah,
that this is his head protecting him. It is mapping the stimulus onto something that seems normal to protect him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You crawl through this vent here, and you reach what appears to be this control room. And there's a note here that says, don't touch the structural gel leakage. This thing that you have been touching can confirm its effect on WoW. Issue has been reported to SSE Wolchek. This is the first mention of WoW. This is the name of the corrupting force.
AI.
Yeah.
And just let's clarify, it's an acronym for WAU.
Yeah.
It's not like WoW, like the Kate Bush song, or like what's it said?
Warcraft. Wow.
Yeah. It's not Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
It's like Warden's autonomous unit or something.
Yeah. Like they refer to it as the Warden. Like what this thing, it's basically like AI life support. Is what it is. Like it is this thing that has been installed, kind of experimentally and unethically down here to preserve human life. Is what it is. Good.
And can we take a moment? I just like to appreciate, like, I love this game's treatment, like realistic treatment of AI. Mm-hmm. Like this is 100 years in the future. It's not infinitely in the future where AI is like the doctor on Voyager or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no, it has directives, but it follows directives. It's still a machine. We're not dealing with a personality here.
Yeah.
Like at no point is the WoW like, hello, I can't allow you to do that. You know,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. Like it's no, it's a program still. Like we still made it. It felt like a more realistic like expectation of an AI to me than what we typically see in sci-fi, which is just like the Red Queen and Resident Evil.
Right.
Like just a malevolent evil creature.
It's and it's scarier too, because even though it has a purpose, it doesn't have like motivation or volition to it. Like you can't
be convinced.
Right. It cannot be reasoned with. You know, it combines with the structure gel this magical goop that is created mostly as like insulation and conductor, but it's like a ferrofluid. It combines with that to become this almost eldritch, cosmic, Lovecraftian force down here. Almost like a new force of nature. And that is scarier than something that can talk to you. You know, this is to me scarier than Shodan. Yeah, this is scarier than Shodan, even though she
Shodan was cool because Shodan was System Shock 2. It was early, but we've done Shodan a lot. This is new.
Yeah. Also, just a thing here, WoW, W-A-U. I didn't realize this until I read it maybe on TV Tropes or something like that. So all of the sites on Pathos are named after Greek letters. We're on Upsilon. We're going to be going through Omega, Alpha, all these things. WoW, like it is a character. Like it is a name for a character that like basically wasn't around. It fell out of use as a name by the time the Greek language got codified. So it's like this missing letter that had a different name by the time the Romans came around and started codifying all this stuff. So that is a fun little piece here. It is the missing facility from Pathos.
As we're kind of walking through this, there's a machine on the floor that is covered with all this techno corruption and slime, and kind of connected to a lot of machines in the room, draining their power. But we need this machine, to go on. We can't talk to it. We try to talk to it, but when we unplug it from this power, it speaks to us.
It screams.
It screams like it's really pathetic. Like, no, don't. I need it. Why? I was okay. I was happy, and then dies, which is just. Gut wrenching. Like that's sad. It's a mercy kill, but also I was happy is a really,
or even just like even more so than I was happy. I was okay is devastating.
Yeah.
To that.
Yeah. It's like pleading. It's like escalating.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
I was okay, but no, I was happy. Like this was really good. Like now that it's gone.
Yeah. We should lay out what's happening here. Why these particular people are talking to you through robots. What the WoW has done is it is unbeknownst to the people of the station when they were piloting some of these machines, sitting in pilot seats and using neural interfaces to go and do stuff around the stations. The WoW has done its own version of brain scans, and it's developing these, and it is putting people's consciousness, copies of their being, into the machines, creating what the staff of Pathos calls mockingbirds. So imagine you are walking around in this rapidly depopulating facility on the ocean floor. You hear your own voice, and you round a corner, and it is a machine that is speaking as you, begging you not to unplug it.
Yep. And it doesn't think it's not you.
Right. Yeah.
Like it thinks it's as much you as you are. And the question the game asks is it?
Yeah.
Especially with who we're controlling in this game.
Yes.
It's one of many WoW's kind of strategies here in what it's trying to do in its twisted mission, which will get kind of unfolds throughout the game. So we reboot the system, the facility comes back to life, and we find out we're in a power core. Like it looks like we're in some kind of energy thermal reactor. And we operate this control console and talk to this woman from Site Lambda. She's like, hey, what's going on? Why are you still there? And you're trying to ask what's happening. You know, she thinks you're just a normal technician, but you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Right.
And she basically says there's too much interference. Like, go upstairs to the comm center. I can't hear you.
Right. So that is our next little mission here. But that's going to be stymied by when we go out into the kind of turbines area. There is a big, awkward monster that looks bloated with cameras and sensors that comes stumbling out, and it is not friendly.
Yeah. It looks like to me, like a little like a twisted version of a Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Like it's very top heavy, and it has like a lot of like almost like it looked like Christmas lights to me.
Yeah.
Around its head. They're just like little regular lights or anything like that. But this is starting our first, avoision.
I say avoision.
It's a word. Look it up. Our first avoision section. We're trying to get around from this guy, and he's slow, and he doesn't, he sounds scary. He makes big stomps when he moves around, but unless he sees you, you're perfectly safe. Like it's not as dangerous as it seems. The way out is blocked by steam vents, so we have to turn off this valve to make our way up there. And then when we start making our way up that, the stairs break and we fall on the ground, drawing the monster's attention, and we have to sprint away. And lock it out.
Right. We get upstairs, kind of to this maintenance level, and we find a way that somebody lived here. This woman named Amy created this makeshift home. There's like a mattress in the corner, like her clothes are hanging up to dry. There are like drawings and diaries around. Just pretty miserable looking, actually.
This is rough.
Yeah. The way up to comms is actually blocked by this door that is powered down. You go look at this terminal and it says like, hey, there is not enough power. We need to fix that in order to get the doors back online.
Yes. And as we're doing this, we hear somebody nearby calling for help. We walk in, there's an assembly line, and this is Robot Carl. A robot is knocked over on the assembly line, being like kind of crushed from the bottom and fused with this goo. And we talked to him and we're like, what are you? And he's like, are you blind? I'm Carl. Like he knocks on his head. He's like, and you keep telling him he's not a person. And he's like, no, like, of course, like you're being ridiculous.
Yeah. He says, you're one to talk. You look like a diving suit with lights in it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just doesn't believe you. Like he thinks he is a person in his mind. He is a robot that is half crushed and combined to the stuff. He's just a person who's hurt.
Yes.
Like he can't move, like his legs are paralyzed or something.
Just he was piloting a robot and there was a power surge. He blacked out and then he woke up here. And he would really like it if you stopped asking dumb questions and helped him get out of this machine that he is trapped in. Not the machine that his consciousness is strapped in, the conveyor belt that he is kind of pinned under.
Yes. Yeah. To move forward, there's a little lever that you have to pull, and when you pull it, he screams, like he begs for you to stop it.
Yep.
You can go back there and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know that would happen. And he's like, just get me help.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Like, find somebody who knows what they're doing. Like it gives you a couple of names. Get an adult.
Get a fucking adult.
Yeah.
And it just, it's kind of like a goofy looking robot, and it's a little bit of a silly situation, but the pain is really there when he screams.
Yeah.
Like it does sound really like I didn't want to hurt him. And then to kind of underline what's going on, when you go into the next room, we actually find Carl's dead body.
Yep. Yeah, and you confirm it. You pick up his ID card is here.
Yep.
And his ID card has his number, which is his login for the terminal. And this will let us figure out a way forward. So what you can do, you can flip the switch and leave him in agonizing pain for an indefinite amount of time until his circuits fry. Or you can do something a little bit more merciful. You can go to the terminal and open up the way to reroute the power so that he is depowered and is killed immediately. The kind of the gameplay trade-off for this is if you flip the switch and leave him in agony, then you can proceed on without having the monster come to you. If you do the mercy kill option, the monster is able to get in because the door opens up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, do you want to do the mercy kill? And Carl just wants to go get help. He's not of right mind. He doesn't want to be mercy killed. So it's up to you kind of what to do.
Yeah. I feel like I know better than Carl here. But
again, you're in, would you want the same thing for you? From Carl's perspective, you're doing the same thing.
There's a plug.
You're just wandering around until you die.
There's a plug that is plugged in and I want to unplug it.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's an interesting thing because like your fate is not sunnier than Carl's.
True.
The same thing you're saying like is good for Carl. You are also doomed to that exact same thing. But you don't believe that. I'm not saying you specifically, but Royal, you like the player doesn't believe that because you're the player. Like you are an avatar. I'm controlling this and stuff, but you are in exactly as dire a situation as Carl, basically, like one micro step removed. So we as we continue forward, we find this map with some emails printed on it, with these facilities around the world going dark, kind of hinting at the apocalypse event.
Yeah.
That happened on the surface. Like I think this is the first time where you see things like, efforts to divert the trajectory of the meteor failed.
Yeah.
They
tried to I almost said deep blue sea it. No, they tried to deep impact it.
Yeah.
There we go. This is also the first time where you see the date. They say the printouts happened in 2103. The opening portion of this game took place in 2015. As of when this game takes place, it's actually 2104. Like people have been living in misery down here, dying off for at least 6 months by the time you get here.
Yeah. A computer has some audio logs of these radio transitions from that date. Also, with this are ways in this communication things, ways to dial people. There's actually a way to dial another station here. And you talk to what is the name of the guy? The guy at the end who tells you to kill the WoW.
Oh, Johan?
You end up talking to Johan early, who just tells you to kill yourself.
Cool.
Which is really creepy. Like it's a little Easter egg. You can talk to like what qualifies as a major antagonist of the game, kind of. But the critical path is to dial into Lambda Station, which we were told to contact before, and we talked to Catherine.
Yes.
And we can't really understand each other. She's asking questions as if you are a sole survivor on this one section of this ruined underwater station, and you're like, what's even happening?
Yeah, like
I'm from 2015.
She's like, okay, so where are you from? And he says, oh, I'm from Toronto. Like, no, what station were you at? No, I literally came here directly from Toronto 85 years ago. Yeah.
Yep. You say something about Carl there. You're like, hey, there's this guy, he was a robot. He killed me. And she's like, no, robots don't feel anything.
Yeah.
You didn't hurt him, which is just like a real tragic line. And we start to head out. The room starts to crumble and we're going to head out. Catherine says, get to a tram and head to Lambda. That's where I'm at. But the room ruptures and floods with us in it.
Yeah. And you, in your mind, believe yourself to be a pink and vulnerable human being made of flesh and stuff. And the water goes up and floods and you think, okay, I'm dead. No, you're walking around just as a person. And it's not until you try and lift yourself out when you extend your arm that your mind goes from showing you a human hand to it reconciles the information by showing you a human hand, and it reveals what it actually is, which is the hand of a diving suit. Like the hand just kind of like fades and transitions, and there is no context provided for what this is or why you are able to breathe on the ocean floor, and why you were able to not be crushed by the pressure down here.
Yeah, and it still maintains the metaphor. Like, you as a player, you could definitely guess by now that you're a robot, but for Simon, a diving suit would explain why a human, like a regular human, could walk around like this. So your brain provided a diving suit.
Yeah, it's less upsetting than seeing a flesh hand down here.
From the truth. Yeah. So you climb up and you start walking across the ocean floor to the shuttle station. A data buffer on the ocean floor has this conversation between Amy and someone else where Amy is really upset that the machines killed Carl. We've seen Carl. We know he died. Yeah. It's not great that Carl died, and a machine did it.
Yep.
And later when we see Amy's notebooks, she cared about Carl. She had a crush on him.
Yes. In addition to this, there are underwater drones down here. I really like the voice on this guy. It's just a man ranting angrily as he chases you down. He's got like a little spotlight on him that turns red when he notices you. Like, what's this called? Is it called the Bull or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's good. You know, the implication here is that like there are some sentient robots about, but they're not doing great.
Yeah.
You know, but we do find a little pupper drone. I'm way into pupper drone.
Yeah.
And this is like ED from New Vegas.
It sings
almost actionably.
Yeah, it sings so many happy little songs. When it does
it's real
work.
chirpy.
Yeah. But he's trapped under some rocks.
Yep.
And when you free him, it'll when you free it, it'll light your way. It'll follow you around. And when you reach the door for the shuttle station here, it actually like pulls out its little power welder and loosens it up for you.
In this game, just really highlighting like humanness and things. You know, you're in this incredibly scary thing. The way that Simon latched on and imprinted to this little buddy mirrored the way that I did.
Yep.
You know, so much like, oh, here's a friendly pupper. Like that's how Simon reacts too. He's like, hey, buddy, you trapped? Like he immediately starts infantilizing it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's again very human thing to do. And keep that in mind once we find out what Simon is, which is a zombie robot. So we get in, it's dark in here, and a flashlight turns on. And Simon's like, I didn't have a flashlight.
I'm
like,
not holding a flashlight. Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Again, like always, whenever that's the case, I picture that the person has their mouth open and the light is flooding out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just JC Denton walking around going, whoa.
I imagine that if he could see a mirror during this part, he would have like a diving light, like a light helmet.
Yeah,
would just appear. You know, that's how his brain would do it.
Yeah. But yeah, you get in, and the shuttle is not going to move because insufficient power. This is just a perpetual problem for you. You can follow the power line, and it leads to one of the most upsetting things, actually. And it happens really, like within the first hour of the game. There's a woman, like a human woman. She is sitting on the ground. She is fused to the wall by some structure gel. And she is breathing through a set of these external lungs that were grown out of the structure gel. The WoW saw that this was a person who couldn't breathe anymore and said, we're going to keep this person alive. Let's grow them some lungs and keep them pinned to this place. Hey, you're still technically alive.
Yeah. Boy, lungs outside of the body.
Ugh.
That's real gross. That's cringe to me.
Yeah, that's it. I don't like that's something specifically about the lungs too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, I knew a guy in my hometown who one of his lungs collapsed and he was jogging. And the idea of that is so fucking scary to me.
And it can just like happen. It
just happens.
Yeah. Like just through like pneumonia, some kind of bad surgery and
breathing, which I do every day. Like, I do not want to have my lungs collapse.
This is very good body horror.
It's so scary. Like, this is, it reminded me of Dark Corners of the Earth when you go down into the basement in the first house.
Oh, and the person's, all of their systems are broken out into little vats.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still alive, but every one of their organs is operating from outside their body. So good. And she speaks. She's like moans. Like, she's like, it won't let me die. Nothing is allowed to die.
Yeah. That sentence, really nothing is allowed to die. So good.
Super scary. And she also says like, hey, get somebody. She, Masterns or Hollins could help me. And she's draining the power. These lungs are the reason why we cannot continue on the shuttle. So we got to unpluggo these lungos. Like
unpluggo the lungos.
Unpluggo my ego. And this is, I consider this to be a mercy kill. In this 100%. But she dies without having lung power. And we're able to take the shuttle, and we get an orientation video.
Yeah. Welcome to Pathos 2, your gateway to the stars.
Yeah. Can we take a quick moment to appreciate the Pathos 2 clip art logo?
So good.
At the bottom, which is like a beaker, a microscope, and then like an atom or something just kind of haphazardly arranged. in a line. It's really good. It's like very lazy.
Yeah, just the quintessential. It's a quintessential camel. The product of a committee room or a meeting room that could not agree. So let's throw everything in.
Yep.
But yeah, like Pathos is not like a survival bunker or whatever. Like they didn't expect there to be like comet problems. No, what this is, it's a space gun. What it does, it is a place for satellites to be launched. So, the barrel starts like over in the abyss, and it goes up, more than a marathon, 26 miles, powered by electromagnets instead of, combustion, launching satellites into orbit.
This is a real ass thing.
Yeah.
As well. Like space gun doesn't sound real at all.
Right.
Like that sounds dumb as hell. But the idea behind this is sound. People have talked about this kind of thing.
It gets rid of the risk of something like, a rocket blowing up on the launch pad.
Yeah, the Challenger disaster. Things like that. This is Challenger proof. The shuttle hits an obstruction, though, and derails the car.
Right.
So we have to, we crash, we get out. Again, there are a few too many of these times, I think, where like things explode around you. I think this is trying to show you how durable you are.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like increasing that uncanniness. As you're kind of making your way from the wreck, Catherine rings this phone in the tunnel and is like, hey, there's not a direct way to Lambda from the tunnel, but you can take this maintenance hatch and walk outside the rest of the way.
And she talks about walking outside as though it is nothing. Like she knows what is going on. So we get to Site Lambda, and right away when we get here, we see we see this monster, and we hear it attacking Catherine. Like, just we watch it go into a room, and we hear her yell. When we go inside her lab after the monster leaves, we see that our hopes may have been poorly invested, because she is not a flesh and blood human. She is like Carl. She is trapped in the exact same kind of robot, knocked over, pinned to the ground.
She's Carl to me.
Yes.
And you were very disappointed in this because, again, you're just like, when will I see a human who isn't being supported by external lungs?
The lungs are a deal breaker.
Yeah. She's like, look at you, look who's talking, like in a real direct way. And again, like this is Simon's being told he's a robot. He doesn't believe it. I understand that, like I'm just in a diving suit. You're just a dumb robot. Why would I trust you? She says, hey, I need to be able to get around, remove my Cortex chip from this robot and put it in your Omni tool.
The
and
door
like,
opener.
Oh, you mean the door opener? And she's like, sure. Okay. And you do. When you plug the Omni tool into the console, you get her face pops up and she speaks to you. And this is the first time she mentions the ARC project.
Right. So this is something that she was working on. She is somebody who was basically on staff to figure out ways to interface people with humans. Or people with humans. Yeah, people and humans. No, people with machines. And it was like a little diversion for her. Like, hey, what can we do with this brain scan technology? But then everything changed when a comet hit and wiped out everything on the surface. To her mind, the Ark is humanity's last chance to survive, even if surviving means that we are digital copies of a very limited portion of the population circling space, circling the solar system in a fake satellite. Or in a fake world, real satellite. There we go.
Yes. Yeah. It's not like a styrofoam, like Party City USA satellite. I can't remember where I saw this expression, but it's like a fancy tombstone.
Yeah.
For humanity, like something will live on.
Yes.
And she is saying this. One of the reasons why Catherine ends up making sense, something that really landed for me in this playthrough, is Catherine is very cavalier and very direct.
Yes.
About everything in this. And that is because Catherine is the foil to Simon, who has come to peace with everything that you cannot. And part of it is because she invented it.
Yeah.
She talks about how she basically invented this technology while she was here. Like, she built on other stuff, but she basically figured it out on her own to do this. So she's at peace with this. Like, hey, as she's speaking to you now, I am a copy who lives in a robot. The idea of making a bunch of copies that live, out in space in a paradise for eternity is pretty rad.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. It's something good I can do.
Yes.
In the name of our species, in the name of humanity, and like what humanity is.
Yeah.
And
Simon immediately thinks, hey, this is my way out.
Yes. Yeah. That's going to come a little bit, like, he gets more into that later, but this is the seeds of that.
Yes.
She unlocks this door and says, like, hey, go to this neighboring computer and see where the Ark is. There's like an Ark location thing. And on there are interview tapes about the Ark where people are being asked about what they think of it as a project. I love the second guy in this who looks like he's going to fight you in Final Fight. I was really expecting him to be like, I don't go in for this Ark shit, flesh and blood, that's me, a human hoagie. I was
Hi, I'm the guy from Penumbra Black Plague.
Yeah, I'm the Mucinex goblin, and I've been put into a human body. I was really expecting that, but he's like, no, it's a good idea. But they code him so much as like a Double Dragon villain. It's very funny.
The final interview here is from somebody who seems like they're going to be a villain, kind of active, working against you. This guy, Mark Sarang. And he talks about, like, he's especially enamored of the idea, and he starts talking about, kind of saying something that feels like it comes out of nowhere, talking about, like, the reality of continuity. Like, what does it mean for consciousness to bridge this gap? We'll talk about where Sarang comes from and what he ultimately causes to happen when we get there, when we see the results of it. But he is not a force for good.
No. Again, horror game about motivated reasoning. He's a big part of that.
Yeah.
So use a tracking module to pinpoint the location of the Ark. It's still down here. She thought maybe it had launched, but it's actually at Tau.
Yes.
And Catherine's like, hey, can you help me launch this? And Simon's like, yeah, like, I can help you do that. Also, like, that is a hope for humanity. I'm humanity.
Yeah.
No, you're not. And then also, what else are you going to do?
Right. Sit down here, play chess. That doesn't work out for everybody.
Yeah. No hands. You have to learn that chess code.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Oh.
So made a time.
We're
monsters about as well.
Yeah. But yeah, we're on a mission. We have a plan. We get further into the facility by activating this escape pod that we passed by on the door, or on the ocean floor. Catherine cannot make this pod work to get us further along. There might be a functional one in this vessel that is wrecked nearby. This miniature little, like, horror dungeon called the Curie is a submarine that wrecked nearby.
Yeah, the story of the Curie is really sad.
Yes,
like what happened to the crew and stuff. This is again this big nuclear submarine. When you're inside, you hear announcements there to the crew that, like, hey, the efforts that were made to stop the comet have failed. The sub is safe because it's submerged, but there's nowhere we can go.
Right.
There's nowhere we can land. The Curie, there's also somewhere in this, I can't remember where, but you find logs where they checked the surface. Like, eventually they did check out what was going on the surface, and it was just like firestorms.
Yeah, like the atmosphere was lit up. Yeah.
Yep. It was like literally on fire. And they're like, there's this really heartbreaking conversation where somebody's like, well, are there survivors? And the guy has to be like, no, like, we're past that. Like, it's, unquestionably no. It's literally an inferno.
Yeah.
Nobody could survive in this.
We have to come to peace with the fact that we are the last.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a lot, and this is being disclosed to you over these PAs as you go, and you are being pursued. This is a real big step up in the monster department by this monster that the game calls a flesher, but this is actually the remains of a crew member called Jiangxi. Can teleport. It's not actually teleportation. What it is doing is editing your visual and time perception.
Yes, which is awesome.
To get around, love it.
That's incredible. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Fleshers were originally a faction.
Yes.
In this, but they repurposed the enemy.
Yeah.
So we have to, like, it kind of stalks us while we're doing amnesia shit. Mm-hmm. You know, where we're trying to make our way into the escape pod, to yank these cords in this reactor to overload the ship so we can get out, and, you know, cause an emergency basically to deploy the escape pod.
Yes.
We follow these red lights to get to the craft, and initially, it's not saying there's an emergency. Mm-hmm. Like, we can't get out. But eventually I think that Catherine, like, reroutes it or whatever through Game Boy powers. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly how that.
Yeah, they play it for suspense whether or not you're going to blow up with the sub or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason why, it's implied that the WoW is stopping it from, like, being considered an emergency.
Yes.
Like, the WoW is still trying to control it because there's human life on here. There's Zhengxi. Mm-hmm. You know, that needs to be preserved.
Yeah. As you ride away, you know, you have launched and you're going a little bit further in. Simon asks, like, hey, you know, what's this black stuff? Like, you know what's going on here? I would really like to know. This is where Catherine describes, like, yeah, this is WoW. It's this facility-wide AI that has gone rogue. She says it here, you know, it's not a persona. It doesn't feel or think. It's more like a cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I again, anytime she's like, AI doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I love when somebody's like, no, movie, like, you've seen too many movies. Yeah. The cowboy pushes us off this plateau, and Catherine aims us at the Delta facility. She's like, if we don't hit the Delta facility, we'll die. Mm-hmm. But luckily she lands us there, and we do crash into the Delta facility.
Yeah.
Our little drone pupper lasers the hatch open and helps us, and then sings a song for us.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is canonical. At some point she says, like, the intelligence of that is, like, the same as a dog. I feel like there's a person in there. I don't know if that's true, but, like, why is it coming down to help us and let us out and then sing us a song?
Yeah.
It's almost like they put a kid in there or something. Yeah. Like,
they just had a facility kid, a team kid, kind of like how they're ship's cats.
Yeah. Ship's kids. Yeah. You know, what do you think Captain Kidd was, dude? Oh, there's a whole pirate about it.
Oh, geez. But yeah, you've got your little dog buddy here, dog child.
Yeah.
And Delta is it's not really like an enclosed facility. Like, there are small little, like smaller outbuildings here that make it up. You can get into this flooded entry here to one of these, and you find a terminal where we learn about Terry Akers, who is kind of the main antagonist for the middle stretch of the game here, from, like, Delta all the way through Theta. Terry was this really disgruntled guy who refused to relocate, even as things at Delta got worse and worse.
Yeah. Yep. Like a holdout. Mm-hmm. In here. As we kind of continue through, we can find a corpse, which a buffer, talks about how he's been injecting people with that stuff, which is probably structure gel. It's probably not like Sprite, like they're being coy for some reason, but it's probably, they all know what it is. Mm-hmm. And then there's an email that we find as well warning Theta not to let Terry in, but it's an unsent draft.
Love that.
So somebody Simoned it.
Oh, email horror. And we get a little bit of insight into Terry and his the way that his relationship with their reality progressed or deteriorated. You get to his room. I love this. This is, just a general, evidence dungeon kind of deal. There's, graffiti written on the wall and what might be blood, saying, the light is hurting my eyes. He's telling me that I don't need this vitreous flesh inside my skull to see salvation. I will gladly remove them, stop them from obfuscating this divine mission. He is acting as a religious fanatic, treating the WoW as his god that is giving him the orders. My reflection in the black blood of our warden whispers, I need to save them from this hell. Let them sleep. Lock them in the lucid dreams that I've seen.
Yeah. This feels very much like this would have been a major faction in kind of the faction draft.
Yes.
Of this. Like the people who worship the WoW. Mm-hmm. Like they basically salvage this, from that version.
Yeah.
It feels like. As you continue through, you use this comm antenna to look for a functioning cargo zeppelin. in order to continue to make our way towards the Ark and hail it. When it arrives, we need a security chip. And Catherine's like, we need to get one of these, just grab it. And we're like, oh, do we have to go all the way back? And she's like, no, just get it from a robot.
They're just around, just gestures wildly.
Yep. And there are two options here. You can take it from a guy robot who's walking around who like screams in pain as you like stun him, or you can take it from the pupper. Which is very sad.
I'm not taking it from the fucking pupper. The pupper can make do. The pupper will be fine.
Pupper can make do. Humans can kick rocks.
Yep.
But there's again, it's one of these little choices in the game. Like, do you take it from this weird, like this thing that is arguably human, or from this thing that has been really nice to you and been friendly and stuff? But she even says later when she talks about it, like there's just an AI in that. It's not a person, even though I do think there's a kid in there. It's just it's not a person, and it has the intelligence of a dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Catherine comes across as real manipulative about whether or not the robots have a meaningful existence. Like, she has come to her own conclusions and really seems not so much baffled, but just is not engaging with Simon's agonizing over what all of this means. She has quickly, it seems, come around to accepting that she is real, like, hey, but wherever I am real, but also the robots, like, it doesn't matter. The copies are out there. It's fine. Just treat them as a way to go forward. And that manipulative streak is kind of going to continue, whether or not she's doing it intentionally. Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of like, I feel like this is possibly the game being deft and setting her up as, in this respect. But to me, it's just, she's already done all this work that Simon isn't doing, and she's not about to go backwards.
Right.
Like it's, coming to terms with the things that Simon comes to terms with is a Herculean act of like ontological strength.
Yes.
And it's not the kind of work you're going to undo.
Right.
I'm not going to touch this Jenga tower for nothing. So we get over to Upper Theta on our way here. We find this downed robot outside of it. This is Robin Bass, and she thinks she's on the Ark. She's a copy, and she's like, "Oh, like, is this the Ark? That's sad."
Yeah. This was your vision of paradise.
Yep. And she kind of explains the first hint of this suicide cult.
Yeah.
Basically, like some of the people in Theta believed that you transfer your consciousness. In order to transfer your consciousness to the Ark, as opposed to just copying it, you need to kill yourself right after being scanned.
Yeah.
And that will ensure continuity. There is not a shred of anything to support this.
Nope.
In the entire game. This is a horror game about motivated reasoning, because the alternative is you slowly drown and starve to death at the bottom of the ocean.
Yep.
This is a better thing to believe, which is historically why everyone believes in a heaven, right? Like, it is a better thing to believe. It sounds good. The alternative is horrible.
Yeah.
And this is her version of that.
Yeah, no, like there's no basis in this. It's literally just something that Sarang came up with. And as mentioned in the generalities here, it's really just the idea of quantum suicide. The idea that, because of a many worlds theory, if I were to cease to exist here, how could I get to a place where something is different? Well, maybe the thing that is me, the thing that designates that this is the experience, this is the reality that I'm experiencing, if it is denied to this vessel, by me taking the vessel out of the equation, it will jump over and I will get to this different place. So you have to do it as quickly as possible so that the coin flip will go in your favor. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a leap of faith.
It's a huge leap of faith.
Yeah.
Like this is faith in action. Yeah.
Yes. Faith in all of its horrible glory, all of its not caring what it does to the people who have to deal with what you have done to enact it.
Yeah. Like, this is not the first time somebody has done something horrific thinking that it gets them into heaven.
Yeah.
like it's an opposite of what we have in any kind of religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like, we say it's bad to kill yourself. That means you don't get into heaven, but it's no more morally justifiable, or less rather morally justifiable than a lot of things that have been done in the name of faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
Robin
sad.
Ventured everything, and she believes that this paradise, that she is just the person who arrived early to the party. It's like, hey, where is everybody?
Yeah. Sad.
So I unplugged her. I probably, she seemed happy enough. She didn't ask me to do it, but eventually nobody would have shown up, and she would have been, stuck at the bottom of the ocean with all these mutant fish. So
yeah, she probably would have gotten killed by a mutant fish eventually.
Yep. So you get inside Theta, and Theta is where you're going to be spending a good chunk of the game. Actually, this is a pretty big, wide-ranging facility. We're here in the upper part of it. We plug Catherine in to this terminal. She says, "Hey, we're looking for this submarine called the Dunbat. This will help us get the Ark down to the abyss. Basically, right now we are up on a plateau, and the Dunbat will help us, navigate the pressure as we get to the the further ocean floor down here."
Mm-hmm. And this is my favorite like puzzle kind of task in the game. Like this is not a hard puzzle, but I think this is really cool. Mm-hmm. The Dunbat is in quarantine. To get it, we need a security cipher. And you say like, how hard is that to get? And she's like, it's the kind of thing we didn't write down.
Yeah.
We look in computers and stuff trying to find this, but that's not. Well, we could, it's not there. We see everyone has abandoned the upper levels of this facility. Mm-hmm. And at some point she says like, what if we found somebody who knew it?
Yeah.
So what if we, when we head over, we can find this thing that allows us to bring back copies. Mm-hmm. It is, the WoW made it, a version of Catherine's machine called a Vivarium.
Right. And it was far more effective and complete. And in fact, Catherine looked at this, and that is how she completed the Ark technology, was by imitating what the WoW did.
Yep.
Because the WoW had been stealing people's consciousness, has been doing these scans from the pilot seats for a very long time. So that's why there is this kind of complete library, and that explains the mockingbirds that we saw.
So that's how she did this. But problems arose because Sereng, as we mentioned before, killed himself after his scan. Yeah. There's like an audio log here of Catherine calling her superior about this. Mm-hmm. Like, Maser Laser, like, what on earth do I do?
Yes.
And he had been spreading this idea that the only way to get onto the Ark, as we mentioned, this caused, basically these factions that we only kind of see the aftermath of. Mm-hmm. Strohmeyer is here, the security guy, and he's like, we have to stop doing the whole project. It's causing people to kill themselves.
Yes. Which is not unreasonable.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. And just imagine going through that. You are trying to do this thing to save everybody, to help them, and people are killing themselves.
Murders themselves.
Yeah, and people and like a bunch of people are killing themselves like right in front of you. Just can't imagine that trauma. Catherine's room is interesting because it bears out some things that are going to be like written about her. Catherine was a very strange person. Mm-hmm. In life. People found her very off-putting. She didn't really have much in the way of like social skills. She was very kind of like monomaniacally focused on her task, and was kind of more comfortable with machines than people, which can probably explain her relatively sunny attitude about what's going on. Yeah.
And that to me makes sense.
Yes.
That feels true.
Mm-hmm.
In Sereng's room, as we're kind of checking this out, and being in a living quarters is one of my favorite things that happens in games.
It's amazing.
This is so fun. Sereng's room has this warning placard on the door that says it might contain corporate secrets from Carthage, which is the company that sponsored the space gun. Mm-hmm. He's like kind of like a company stooge.
Mm-hmm. There are 3 company stooges here present, but he is one of the 2 who end up making problems for people. You go in and you find this letter that addresses Sereng as this intelligence analyst for Carthage, and really directly gives him orders related to this conspiracy to spread and study the WoW. Basically, the WoW had far more capabilities than anybody on Pathos 2 recognized, right, or were really made aware of. And Sarang, along with his collaborators, Johan Ross, who we're going to meet later, and Julia Dahl, are kind of running this experiment and collecting data to send back.
Mm-hmm. We end up in Robin's room, and we see that she killed herself. Like, her bed is covered in blood. She's not there though.
Right.
Like, there's a razor on her pillow, but the body has been repurposed. She has a picture of her dad, covered with a bloody thumbprint. That good environmental storytelling going on.
Yes.
What happened right before she died. And there's a note on the desk right next to a drawing of what she imagines the arc would be like. She's drawn all these like fantasy drawings like a little kid.
Yeah.
Very sad. And she says, like, we're all dying anyway, so I'm all in. I put all my faith in Sarang and the continuity.
Right.
Like, again, kind of making this, more appealing than you might otherwise think the suicide cult would be.
Yeah. So Sarang offered a much better alternative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get into what is like the highlight of the game for me. Like, there's a moment later on that I think is like scary and beautiful. It is scary, beautiful, but like, this is like the best thing, the best puzzle, and also kind of just the most entertaining part of this as well.
That's what I was referring to. Earlier, getting this, but
like, this is a real highlight. This is what I think of when I think of this game, because you find Catherine's lab. You find the place where she was doing all of these scans with a pilot seat. There's a data buffer here with her calling for help because somebody named Conrad killed himself with a maser tool after the scan. And Catherine's like, hey, let's like check on something. And she directs you to this terminal. And she's like, hey, I need you to look here. And when you go and look at the terminal with all of the scans and the basic AI, you find an entry with your own name. You find your name in the system. There are audio recordings here. And this is pretty devastating, actually. You hear yourself coming to terms with your own death. You died within a month of that first scan.
It's devastating for lots of reasons.
Yes.
Right? Like, the full quote here, is like, Munchie is like, hey, I'm sorry this didn't work out.
Munchie's like ripping himself apart about this. He really feels like he failed.
Like, we really could have done this, for you. And you have this whole thing about like, what the worst part about dying is, I felt like in the last couple of months, like I was really trying to live, which is really sad. Yes. And then at some point, you say just casually, like, well, maybe that brain scan will be good for something. And Munchie goes, yeah. Hey, wait, you'd really be okay with me using it in my research? And you say, yeah, like, why not? It's like, it's like a part of me that lives on, or something like a donated organ.
Which is easy to say when you're dying.
But what he did, right?
Yeah.
Is horrific. Like, his Simon scan was used as the template for AI development.
Yeah.
There have been, in the last 100 years of this game, countless Simons who have undergone countless hells.
Yes.
Like, if the version who is reading this terminal is just as real, and we're led to believe that, both by the fact that we're embodying them as a player and the fact that Simon believes it, that's just Simon, you have damned an untold number of yourselves to an untold number of hells.
And we see how miserable that is here, in just 2 minutes.
Yes.
Like, what happens whenever this is booted up, which is just a constant reliving of, all right, the camera steals your soul, cheese. And then boom, there's nothing. Or boom, here is this fake space that was created. Here are people tormenting you, and then unplugging you, and then you're gone over and over again, repeatedly. And Munchie became the father of modern AI. He became, this pioneer and lived a long life. And his scan is in there too, but yours was the template.
Yep. So using you as she calls you a legacy scan. Basically you're the track that came with GarageBand to teach you how to mix.
Yeah.
And like that song, you have been played so many times. I love, something we talk about on the show as a really great narrative conceit is making decisions with incomplete information.
Yes.
The casualness with which Simon agrees to this is so good to me. Yeah, why not? And that's how I'd probably answer.
What's there to lose? Whatever. If I can help, I can help. Yeah.
Yeah, you think about this a little bit more, man. Like, it's really, really fucked up.
Yeah.
As an idea, and we're in like the fucked up corridor.
Yes.
Like we're gonna get fucked up thing after fucked up thing here.
Yeah.
None of the computers will turn on, so we have to go to the basement to reset the power router. There's an enemy down here called the proxy that we have to avoid on this like little timed thing.
Yeah.
Is this the guy who can only hear you, or is that the next monster?
That's the next one. So it is specifically Terry Akers, who in the story had ripped out his own eyes as he was injecting himself with structure goo. But yeah, these proxies are people who have been injected with structure goo.
Yes. When you get this and you get upstairs, you look through the scans to try to find somebody who would have the security code. And we see Brendan Wan. So we're like, hey, and Catherine's really pushing you for this. She's like, hey, we can just simulate him and get the cipher we need. And you're like, okay, and you turn him on, and again, it's worth, you had said earlier when Simon got scanned, like sometimes there'd be nothing. There'd never be nothing. Yeah. Like all of these other Simons just woke up to various hells. Like their awareness just popped with no break in time at all. And that's what happens to Brandon. He just wakes up to nothing. Cannot see, cannot feel, cannot taste, cannot hear.
Yeah. Just he has gone from being in a room with Catherine, having the scan done, and then boom, there's nobody except for this omniscient voice of Catherine asking him for security information. He thinks it's the WoW.
Think of how scary that is.
Yeah.
Like you get scanned and then immediately like it's all black and something is asking you for a security code.
And, there's a sense that Catherine and whoever else was involved in this knows exactly what is going on, because there's an interface element when you are watching this happen on the screen. It's, it's modeled like a video game. There's an interface element that is the stress level. And if the stress level of the simulated subject gets too high, it cuts off, because it ceases to be useful as this person rejects the reality that is put in front of them. Yes.
And that stress level thing comes up later in a big bad way.
Yeah.
To kind of the tragedy at the ending of this. So the puzzle of this is to try to find ways to get to know this guy and make him comfortable. Like going through his room and digging through his stuff to see how we can trick him. Basically, like we killed one version of him, and this is all text. Like Simon is asking this. He's like, did we just, like, was that guy alive?
Yeah.
Like, did we just bring that guy back to life? And Catherine is getting you to paper over this because obviously answering that question might stop you from doing it.
Right.
And she's got her eyes on the prize.
Right.
And also Catherine has been turned off again and again and again. Every time we take the Game Boy and take it out of its dock, we're getting a new Catherine, basically. Like there's not continuity there, right?
So
she's she's swapping.
The way that she describes it, so it is still her, but it's gaps in time. It's really disorienting for her, but it's not like she comes to at the moment of her scan. She comes to what feels like an instant after you unplugged her.
Well, that's what happens whenever you get replugged, because you don't remember time that's not, unplugged.
No.
Like it's not like to anybody, it would just be like a series of these awakenings. If it was I guess that's true. It'd have to be the same one to have the memories.
Yeah, So there is continuity of memory for her. It is a new simulation every time for Brandon. Every time we load him up in this machine here, he always says the same thing, like, "Oh, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be." Yeah.
I definitely knew it was that way for Brandon. I was trying to think if it was that way for Catherine.
Yeah.
But anywho, you're finding things to comfort him, and you basically see that there was a girl he liked.
Yeah. This woman named Alice, who, we have like an appearance scan for her. We just need to data mine an intercom here in his room so Catherine can imitate his voice. The first one of the first indications of what the crew's opinion of Catherine was like is down here. Is a note that Brandon left. The biggest pain was that Chun girl. She is so fucking uncomfortable at all times. It makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
But we find out that that Brandon and Alice, they did their scan together.
Yes. Yep. So you go in, you get the voice from the intercom, and you have to trick him. You have different settings you can choose, like a beach or a ski lodge or whatever, but that will make him suspicious and think it's the WoW doing things. You had to use the scan room, so he just thinks he just got his picture taken and just woke up with Alice.
Yeah.
And she gets the security code from him. And then you apologize to him. You're like, I'm really sorry, Brandon. Like, we got to turn you off. It feels like you could have left him on there, but that wouldn't have been a mercy either, right?
Just trapped in this scan room. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no good being trapped here. So you take this cipher and you go activate the Dunbat, but it has a personality loaded into it and goes crazy, throws a tantrum, and falls down into the abyss.
Yes. That was our ride. There's there are scant few options for proceeding. Before we move on, we should say you can delete Brandon's scan, so he can't go through that again. You can also delete your own scan as well, so you can't be reloaded into something else.
Even though there are things, implications of other sites, underwater sites, around the world that you can see kind of notes about, which probably have scans.
Probably.
Even if they don't have the WoW, it's probably not deleting it from the world.
Right. Yeah. So really the only thing to do is move forward. We can't plug Catherine back in, so we go through some vents and we get down to this facility, this room in Theta where the Ark, the physical vessel for the Ark, was developed. You can look at this terminal, and this is the computer that Catherine used to actually load everybody into the Ark for departure. And she even writes a note and apologizes to everyone that she couldn't scan because of all of the the suicides, right? Hey, this stopped before we could actually get the work done. You can plug Catherine in, and she's really upset that the Dunbat went down. We only have really one other way to do this. We can get to Omicron, get a new diving suit, and take the crawler down. Catherine is not really open with Simon. Not that he would believe her anyway. Simon's like, oh, I'll put on a diving suit over my diving suit. And Catherine's like, yeah, sure. Well, let's go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally, let's go with that.
Yeah.
We will stop. And there's a reason for her to, in the name of expediency, not be totally transparent. Yeah. It's not like there aren't monsters about.
Right.
She's trying to get something done, and there are tons of homicidal machine mans about. So let's get it done. So she's like, well, here, just trust me on this one. There's a structural analyzer here. If you step into it, we'll figure out exactly what you are, and then maybe they'll help us.
Yeah. And
you step in, and you are not like a robot. You are a corpse fused with a diving suit. Specifically a corpse of Imogen Reed, who is implied to be friendly with Catherine, possibly romantic with Catherine. There's a part where it's like, oh, she was nice to me. That's, she kind of stops herself from saying more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, this is good. We've seen how when the WoW makes people, they turn into nightmares, and machines, they go crazy. You're the best of both worlds. Maybe this is what we need, is this man-machine fusion.
And you were made by the WoW. Okay, that's data. Nobody ever explicitly says it, but the monsters that you've seen are progress on the way to you.
Yeah. Yep, you are a final draft, and you're doing pretty okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're all right. So because you have this Cortex chip in you, just like I do, you can be loaded into a different thing, into a pilot seat.
And Catherine sees a lot of this data here. She wants to run some tests on one of the prototype arcs here to figure out how to get people on there. An important thing to say is that the Catherine that we are talking to, she just woke up after the WoW put her into a different machine. She didn't actually. She's an early scan before the arc was finished. Right.
She's the first scan.
Yeah.
So she's I had to do it myself before I could ask anybody else to trust me.
Feel comfortable doing it for anybody else. So she doesn't know how the arc was finished or how everything was loaded up. She just kind of knows the principles that she was working on here. It's actually said offhandedly, you might still be alive somewhere down here, or we might find you. And she's like, hey, don't talk about that. That weirds me out. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Again, her I've put in this ontological work. I don't want to undo it.
Yeah.
Kind of stance.
Yeah.
So we have this simulation where she's running this test. We have a little thing where you have to pause it while it says dummy data. We can change the speed. on which it changes, a little minor puzzle. And then that's how she's going to learn how to load you in, but we still have to go like make the body and stuff.
Yeah. This is the little puzzle where you have to like load the modules in under the under the memory limit.
Yeah.
So
we head over to the Theta Labs here to do this. They're in disrepair, and we start finding these bodies that look like they are dead, but we can hear them breathing.
Yeah. They looked at. They're like burned, kind of like their skin is there. What's happening is they have been plugged into the WoW. They're breathing. Their minds aren't there because the WoW has put them into basically an idealized version of their memory. So when Akers was talking about, I don't need these eyes to see the glorious reality that my warden wants to put us in. Well, Terry Akers, he is acting as a physical agent to catch people, not to kill them, but to basically put them into a lotus, into an island of the Lotus Eaters, essentially.
Yeah. To give them a version of eternal bliss,
which is pretty close to what the Ark is.
Yeah. It's not actually that different. Like, the question this game trucks with, where it's like, if you're perceiving yourself in heaven, what's the difference between that being in heaven?
Yeah.
What
does the physical reality matter that it looks horrifying from the outside?
Yeah. Yep. Like again, or like a Total Recall.
Yeah.
What's the difference between going on a vacation and getting the memories of going on a vacation?
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point in time, they're identical.
Right.
Interesting shit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this note about Catherine. Strohmeyer mandated these evaluations of her. And she doesn't make eye contact. She hates talking, very socially awkward.
Yeah.
The doctor says she has a weak character and can be domineered. Like everybody is negging Catherine left and right.
Yeah. She seems nice. Yeah. She doesn't deserve that.
Like a little like off-putting, a little bit harsh, So you can kind of understand why she's got a little bit of the reputation, but also, come on, guys.
Yeah. Just your coworker. There's no reason to make problems. So, like leading from this office, there's a trail of blood leaving over this autopsy room. This is where Akers was taken after people didn't get the memo because it wasn't sent. Like, hey, if Akers comes, don't bring him in because he was in a coma. He filled himself with a structure gel. We read the notes. The table is empty. And like wherever he bled, the blood has actually started like bubbling into these barnacle tumors that are pretty upsetting to me. And the enemy here is Akers, who is roaming around, who is blind. And this is the one who cannot see you but can hear you very well.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah,
like I really like the the idea of just getting around on sound here. Like there's crap on the floor.
Yep.
And there are ways to attract him by busting open a window. There are other ways to get through where you can go silent. Like he only spawns at a certain point until the end of this.
Yeah.
You can avoid the spawn entirely if you're quiet. And I didn't put this together, but theoretically you could, since you learned about Akers before this, a player could. They could be like, hey, this guy doesn't have eyes.
Yeah.
I need to be really quiet. And if you do, you're rewarded. Like you can avoid this monster encounter until the scripted bit at the end.
Yeah.
That's very cool to me.
Yes. I love the medical lab with the little chambers where they were running tests on the WoW. Basically, they put some of the structure gel in there and saw the way that it grew and like attached the walls and formed these. Just basically tried to form a way to get out. Nice little.
This is where
creepy...
the ratto is.
Yes.
Yeah, little rat they added structure gel to, and it's alive of a sort.
Yeah,
like it kind of kicks and has lights on it. That's sad. There's a buffer nearby where Brandon Wan, our old friend who we murdered a lot, is talking with Alice and saying, like, listen, I'll distract Akers and make room for you and then circle back.
Right.
Like, basically, I will sacrifice myself against this monster. There was like an action game that played out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he doesn't say I'm sacrificing myself. Like, he assures them, like, hey, I'm not going to die today. He knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The way out of this area down the stairs, it's been sabotaged, and the elevator has this component missing. What Brandon did was sabotage that door and the elevator to keep Akers at bay. Brandon's actually taken the chip that is necessary, and we find his body. We find him holding this chip from the elevator. What he did, he distracted Terry and killed himself so the people with the Ark could get away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So you take the chip, you reformat it, and then you seat the chip and ride the elevator until it stops. Here, this ladder collapses under you as you try to climb down here, dropping you to the bottom of the transport level, knocking you out. There are a lot of like concussion wipes.
Yes.
In this game.
Yeah, and you wake up. Terry's gotten you. Akers has you.
Yeah.
Who's holding you by the throat, and then things go black, and you wake up and you're in your apartment in Toronto. Things are kind of like they used to be, except over at the window there's a woman. There is Ashley. And she's like talking to you like you are in a relationship. And and you're like, what do I do? What happened? And she's like, we're just going to do what couples do. Yes.
Like it is this AI's version of what it thinks you want. Really creepy.
Yeah. The illusion goes away and Simon wakes up. He finds himself fused to the meat goo on the wall, kind of down in the transport station where he was headed to. And Terry is still going around. But yeah, he has gotten you and has put you into the WoW to get you into this own version of the Ark.
Yes. Yeah. Other kind of heaven. You wind through these maintenance tunnels as you get through, kind of pumping this backup generator by hand in order to open a door and navigating the cistern full of this like blood red WoW water. Creepy set piece.
Yep.
And activate this power switch for a transport on your way back, but a rush of water flushes you out to sea. On here, so you're outside again.
We are outside of Omicron, which is where we were headed anyway to get the diving suit that we're going to put on over our regular suit. No further questions.
Yes.
So there are some bodies out here, people who have attempted to make their escape. You find them littered along, but when you get to the door of Omicron, it's locked up. Omicron has actually quarantined itself, and people pretty much died waiting outside while they tried to find a way to get in. There's nearby annex where the power is. There's somebody, very horrifyingly, when you check the buffer, he couldn't stand the idea of just slowly dying as the oxygen ran out down here. So in front of everybody, he just took his dive helmet off.
Yeah. Bleak game.
Bleak. Hey, everybody.
A lot of bleak things happen.
Yeah.
Inside we find another body with its head missing, and we try its buffer. It's just white noise. Catherine says its black box must have been overloaded. And this is where you're like, oh, humans have black boxes. And she's like, we all do. Like, these are things that were imprinted into us, as part of our work here.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you're doing when you're reading them. There's a great part here where she's like, how did you figure out how to do that? And you say like, oh, I just do it. Like, and she's like, that's so interesting that like your brain kind of made this really natural, this thing that is literally you sucking data from a black box in a person's brain, which is a thing as a human we have absolutely no mechanism for, but your brain just made it happen. Yeah.
It's like psychic communication. Just you touch it and you hear. That's the way that it is conceptualized for you.
Yeah, that's the metaphor.
Yeah. What I love about this too, just as you're talking about Catherine, there have been a few conversations like this, but like as you're waiting for some of the power to come back on, Catherine starts talking about like, what it's like for her not to have a body. Simon asks, he's like, oh, I don't really think about it. Really, whenever I'm plugged in, it's like I'm floating in air. And it's a little bit disorienting, but we have so much else to worry about. So, but it's just so crazy. When you do not have a body, your mind fills in that you're in this void floating.
This is where she talks about how the WoW's primary goal was to keep humanity alive. So that's why all this horror show stuff is happening. After the comet hit, it was like, oh shit, it's go time for keeping humanity alive. I'm
getting
down to my last base of missile command.
Yeah.
All hands on deck here.
Yeah.
We restore power to the facility with a little panel puzzle. The terminal to end the Omicron's quarantine to get in requires a passcode.
And I love this. You go to another terminal to look for the information as you would, and it starts like glitching out. And occasionally you've seen like little like flashes of a message that have popped up. But there's like one of the main buttons on the interface is just nonsense. It's just garbage text. When you touch it, it plays this low tone, and then it just displays the number 7755 repeatedly across the screen. And Simon says, why do I feel like we just got lured into the back of a van? Like, what wants us in there? And he even, was like, are we being lured into a trap, essentially? And, Simon expresses that, like, hey, something wants us to come in. Catherine says, oh, well, we want to get in. That's good.
Yeah. Like, hey, buddy, we don't have that much to fear. There are copies of us about. Yeah. So we can't get in via the front entrance because of mechanical failure, so we climb on some scaffolding to get into Omicron. Once we're inside, everyone here has an exploded head.
Yep.
So...
Yeah.
Did you know that that's the name for like when you're going to bed and you feel that sudden start? Mm-hmm. Is called exploding head syndrome.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
suffer from that really badly.
Yeah. It's weird to know that it has a name, and it's weird that is the name that they have. Yeah.
It's a horrible name for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got it real bad. Happens to me like most nights.
Yeah.
As I'm going to bed. But anyway, everybody here has exploded head syndrome. And a deep voice cuts in as you start hearing voices, and one of them says, "You have to stop this. You have to stop it."
Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with that. This is the whatever thing showed you the code before.
Yes.
You plug Catherine in, and she says, "Hey, our plan is to transfer your mind into a new body. Basically, your diving suit, what you have, will not withstand the pressure. You will be crushed like a pop can," she says. So we need to basically build you a new one, and Simon is not on board.
No, obviously not.
Right.
Like on some level he understands that this sucks. She says, well, you just go along with it for now. If we find a better way, to do this, like we will. But for now, it's the only thing we have. Let's do this and then look around for a better way while we do it.
Right.
Like she's basically ameliorating you. Mm-hmm. Not ameliorating, assuaging.
Yes.
Inside one of the pods there, you see that there's a power suit with a headless body inside. It doesn't have a headless body inside. A thing rips off its head as soon as you open the door.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. It's like, I'm not getting in that. I'm getting in the head ripper.
Yeah.
But she says this is good news. Like, hey, this is pretty close to what you already are. It's a body with a suit. Mm-hmm. We've already discovered that's good.
Yes.
So go grab these things. We need a Cortex chip, some structure gel, and a battery pack in order to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to build a new you. Like these are the ingredients that make a Simon. Let's do it. So you go around. There's a lab that you find that has been examining the ways that WoW is altering sea life. So it is not just working on people. Its remit is to preserve humanity, but it is also causing this very strange and perverted evolution elsewhere. Basically, wherever the structure gel has been able to get. Again, it is this cancer, and it's especially bad down at the abyss. The notes that that they're going for here, they talk about finding this this dead person, Johann Ross, the AI psychologist who was down here working with the WoW, one of the people from Carthage. They found him dead and mutated in the crawler. Basically, the elevator that goes from the abyss up to the plateau.
Love a crawler. So you go into this clean room that's dedicated to studying the WoW's effects on structure gel. This is where this is actually where the rats.
Oh, I thought the rat was there before. This is where they've got the
you're
the
right.
description.
Describe the regular mice.
Mm-hmm.
While the rats that get reanimated seem apathetic, while one of them that was living seems stressed out.
Yeah, this is not right. This undead rat that is here, and then the killing started. The WoW revived rat started going nuts and going after the living thing. Mm-hmm. So not the best. But what happens is this WoW controlled structure gel, when it is put into any situation, it starts trying to fix whatever it is. So if it's put onto a simple circuit, it will do its best to bridge the gap, basically, and then also modify its performance. Right?
Yeah, it is a helpful gel like A1. So we get the control chip, and the gel storage, and this control chip fries when we try to use it, but we take it over to a dispenser and the gel fixes it. It's kind of showing how miraculous this is. we get to see how these people eat. This had big shades of Prey, and it really made me want to play Prey again with those like weird little nutrient cubes.
I love the nutrient cubes.
God, I love a nutrient cube, dude.
Yeah.
This is called Munch Print, where you can print things. And we didn't really talk about this, but I love in this future, like, and this happens a lot in sci-fi, but Chinese culture and languages has become dominant. So not only is everything written in English and Chinese, but also the food reflects that. And that is a big future trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me print some curry, man. I will be very happy
Chinese
with
food's
them.
good. Yeah.
So there's only one monster here, and it's down in the power area. You've got to sneak by it to get the battery back. This one ended up being pretty frustrating for me. I don't know what its exact gimmick was. It felt like it just liked standing in choke points. So I ended up having to like lure it away, have it knock me out, and then hope that it spawned somewhere else so I could get through.
I think the gimmick to this one is that you do have to lure it.
Okay.
And that you move faster than it.
Gotcha.
So like you don't run slower than any of the monsters in this. Like if you're a sprint, you run faster than all the monsters. If you're running straight away, they won't catch you. So this one, you have to kind of get it into a circular area so you can get past it, where you can kind of make your way around.
Yeah.
But it's like a lower concept gimmick than a lot of them.
Yeah. I was curious. It just maybe there was a problem with my sprint button or whatever. It felt like it was catching up to me, so maybe I was not sprinting when I thought I was.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Or it might just be it doesn't take corners well or something. You need to be more circuitous or something like that. I think the gimmick to this one though is just run away.
Yeah.
And then the final things we have to do is reroute some lights on this terminal to get the Cortex chip.
Right.
Here. The monster appears upstairs when we try to get back to this dive room. And when we get in, Catherine locks the door behind you, which is useful in a narrative sense because you're now trapped. And it's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Yeah.
The only way forward is forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is where she gives you the coin flip metaphor, right? Which is, I use that as whenever I talk about the singularity as a thing. In the game, it is a lie. There's no coin flip. She's saying it to make you feel better.
Yes. Saying that, okay, you have a 50-50 chance of ending up in the new body or not when we do the transfer.
Yep. So you decide to go along with it. And you wake up in the new body, and at first you're like, oh, this is great. Like you look down, but you hear yourself in the room like being like, hey, it didn't work. What happened? And then falling asleep, which is a horrific idea. That's really scary. And you fight Catherine about it. And she's like, no, you won the coin flip. Because she's talking to, there's no coin flip. She's talking to the currently controlled. The only difference between you and that Simon is which one the player is controlling.
Yes.
At that point. Like, that is why this couldn't be a book. This has to be a game. Because you couldn't do things like that very easily.
Right. Yeah. Who you are controlling matters in a way that, like, the viewpoint character in a novel would not. In a way that a viewpoint character couldn't convey. Yeah.
It wouldn't feel nearly as visceral.
Yes.
Like, of course this is me. I'm moving around with Wazdi, but you're real mad about this. And you say that she misled you, and she's like, I didn't.
This is the first time where she starts saying, like, I don't know how many times I have to explain this to you. Like, we can't keep going over this.
Yep. There's one more big time of that.
Yeah.
That happens, but this is the first time where that, and eventually, you calm down, and you're like, what do we do with him? And she's like, I don't know. He's like, well, he's going to wake up just as scared as I was. And she's like, listen, if you want to kill him, you can, but I'm not going to make this decision for you.
Right.
And she sets up a kill Simon button.
And then she pieces out. She doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Like, this is, we're broken up for 10 minutes. Yeah.
I'm going offline.
Yeah.
So it's up to you whether you mercy kill Simon. This is a choice in the game. I think it's probably a good idea. There's a monster banging at the door.
Yeah.
And he's sleeping. That's probably about as peacefully as you can go out. And I love this when you get into, again, just as a big Simon stan, him having these mood swings, he immediately is like weirdly regretful and reflective as soon as they get in the crawler. I love this line. He starts talking about, like, do we know if there's anything after this? Like, and to me, it was like, what did I just do to that Simon?
Yeah.
The conversation's the same whether you kill him or not. But is life, since I was used as a base, is the world full of redundant copies of me? If I go to heaven, is it going to be full of Simons, that actually went there? And then I love this so much. He's like, please say something. Like, I don't want to think, please. Like, he's begging her to engage with him because the alternative, this game is all about choosing an alternative in the face of something too hard to deal with, and being in silence while crawling to the lowest point in the ocean after this, like having pissed off your only friend. Is really sad.
Please say something. I don't want to think. The alternative is for his mind to spiral and to devour itself.
Yeah.
Like he needs to process this, and he cannot process it alone.
And she says, like, I don't want to upset you. Like, I'm not talking because I don't want you to freak out.
Yeah.
And when he eventually says, please just say something, she talks about when she was a kid in Taipei and going up to the rooftop and like smelling all the food in the neighborhood and looking through the haze and like feeling really connected to the world in a way that she never really did.
Yes. Like that was the highlight for her, as we're talking about, what does like the sensory experience of being human mean? And like for somebody who did not experience any meaningful connections outside of that, again, you can see how that would make them adapt to this a little bit easier, because there wasn't as much of a loss. The loss for her was not as profound, right?
Yes.
As for Simon, it was. He had friends, he had a life, and even though his life was coming to an end, he had roots, right? And he says, like even in my worst case scenario, as I was, given 6 months to live or whatever, everything still involved my old life somehow. There was never this kind of disconnect. It wouldn't have even been possible to imagine that this kind of disconnect could happen.
Yes. Inconceivable.
Yes.
Catherine cuts out because of a power outage. We fix her, and then we're just like, hey, what was that like? And this is, starts the kind of like, she's more comfortable talking about practical things than philosophical things.
Right.
As we're making our way through here, our vision starts distorting and a horrifying humanoid monster crawls down from the roof of the elevator and gets in your face yelling at you.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good, spooky. You did it. I will make the preparations.
And then black out. You wake up on the ocean floor outside of Omega sector. I love the ocean floor segment, like this part of the ocean floor, like upper ocean floor, good, pretty or whatever. Down here, it is pitch black. The ground is completely covered with WoW corals. All that you have is whatever lights they put up to guide. Like, okay, if you're walking toward blue lights, you're headed toward this facility. Red lights, there's this other facility. But the only other light is from your flashlight and from whatever ambient glow is coming from the WoW that is growing all around you.
Yeah. Really good. You run along this path of lights under this huge WoW mutated sea creature that's here. There's this wind created by this, water wind created by this volcanic event nearby. Again, just really striking. About halfway through, the lights go out, and you have to activate this underwater drone and route it to Tau so you can follow its light.
Yeah.
And as you do, you see a light in front of you. You've been using light paths the entire time. And what is this but a WoW anglerfish that has adapted?
I love it.
Yep.
So, as if anglerfish weren't already the most horrifying things.
A giant anglerfish is always going to do it for me. It's such a scary idea.
Yeah. But yeah, so you've got to avoid that. You have to go through this coral tunnel to avoid these things that are above you. This is one of the most like visually. Again, this is where the beautiful scary comes in as you go through this tunnel, and it's glowing. You don't necessarily need the lights because it is full of these weakly bioluminescent crabs that look like pale spiders that are carpeting every surface here and are moving So it looks kind of like the wall is breathing. Like, this is scary to me. It's real unpleasant, but also beautiful in an alien way. I like it.
Yeah, agreed. You continue forward to Site Tau. A data buffer near the start of this reveals that the people of Tau were alive when the ARC team got here. Their communications were cut off and everyone thought they were dead, but they've been here and in rough straits. Like, they've been out, they're not doing good. Their real food ran out, so they've been eating fake food. Everybody here is having kind of a rough time.
Yes. You open this very slow hatch and you meet your next foe, this Jin Yoshida. He's basically the final exam of regular enemies who are going to come at you. Basically, he has every single trick that could be. He can open doors, comes after you, can hear you, see you, does everything except for teleport, basically.
Yes. You get past him and get into the living area here. Some bodies are cocooned with the WoW. Other bodies are dead. And data mining reveals that something went wrong and the ARC launch was called off. And swarms of monsters kept them trapped here. They could not continue to work on the ARC.
Right.
Here.
Yeah. So they couldn't go back up to the plateau where they could do more work. No, they're stuck where everybody else was. Like, it was assumed that everybody in Tau was dead because of the food shortage. Yes. And then all of a sudden, here comes more mouths. Oops. So you get to a living area with a common room and then individual quarters off to the side. Like we said, you can try and get into Johann Ross's room, but it requires this password. When you go to the terminal to enter it, the password enters automatically, kind of confirming that this thing that is speaking to you through corrupted machinery is Johann himself, who has come loose within the system. You can get inside. You read his journal. You find out, okay, the ARC people wanted to stick around to Tau to get this launch figured out. This meant that, somebody needed to go back up needed to venture to go back up the elevator to the plateau to tell people what was up. Ross also wanted to warn other people about how bad the WoW had gotten. Basically, everything that we saw up there, down here at the Abyss, they've been dealing with it for much longer, right? Yep. So, but the problem is he was corrupted, and when he came to up there, he spread the corruption as well. So, oops.
Yes. Yep. As you continue forward, you get into this infirmary, and there's another really striking, capital S scene in this game, where we see this one named Sarah. She is wounded. She's starving. She's skeletal, basically. And this is the last living human, at least on this facility and arguably on the planet.
Yeah.
Probably on the planet.
Odds are good.
Yeah. And you talk to her and she's like, she's been on this life support with the idea of protecting the ARC. Like, she wouldn't allow herself to die. She hasn't been like WoW supported. She's not, she's fully human.
Yeah. I mean, the WoW probably offered to grow her all kinds of organs outside of her body.
Yeah.
Give her the
I'll
full
give you some
run.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not going to like it. I'll give you some Arby's. And she's been on life support for 312 days.
Yeah. Plugged into this machine, not able to go anywhere, not eating a single thing for basically a year.
Yeah. This just sounds so horrible. And she basically says, like, now that you're here to do the ARC stuff, like, kill me. Like, kill the last human. This fucking sucks, Simon. Like,
she says that. Like, that's what she says.
Yeah.
You ask, like, hey, is this something I should do? It feels disrespectful to what we were. She says, Simon, this is not life. This fucking sucks.
Yep. And I love that, like, when you do it, she's like, stay here with me, which is that's a very sad thing that happens in real life all the time.
Yeah.
In hospitals and such.
And it's weird, the idea that the last human shouldn't have to die alone.
Yeah, that's really, again, does it count? Yeah. Like, why not? It comforted her. Why shouldn't Simon count?
It's like a poignant and existential version of, like, the last man sat in a room and then somebody knocked at the door.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Just like really, really sad. She talks about how beautiful Greenland is. She really, she liked everyone in Pathos. She's very grateful. Like, this is very sweet.
Yeah.
I liked everyone, even Catherine. She says,
sick burn
to Catherine on your way out. I'm saving my death burn for something very special.
Ooh, yeah. Do you have to issue a death burn to get a heaven wish?
You just get one.
Oh, okay.
It's up to you whether you want to play it or not. It's optional.
Gotcha. You exercise your discretion.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have the arc now. You can load it into this move where it'll go automatically to the gun. However, the only way out is this airlock, but the mechanism to equalize the pressure is broken. I like this as like an actual little puzzle. You can basically brute force it just by looking around, seeing what you what you can interact with. But what's the quickest way to equalize the pressure of something other Let's open this bitch up, baby.
Yeah.
So you rip out some pipes and let the water flood in. Doesn't matter.
Yep. Now that what's her head is dead.
Yep.
Whoever the last little person on Earth was,
Sarah.
Let's have a water party. So afterwards, we get out. We walk down this tunnel, and it slowly gets more corrupted. It's turning into like these twisting WoW conduits. And Ross appears to you, Johan, saying, "This is where it all went wrong. This is Site Alpha."
Yeah.
And he continues to appear to you as this kind of little ghost. Kind of taunting you and stuff until Simon eventually just says, like, "What do you want? Tell me what you want." And he explains his plan.
Right. The plan, because the WoW goes through the structure gel, what we need to do is poison it. I created this, corrupted structure gel that will neutralize basically any of the gel connected to the WoW. He came to be at Omicron and nobody believed him except for this woman who was up there. I forget the name of her, but she continued the research and made the gel. She started enacting his plan like, hey, this is obviously bad. We need to actually go and use this. When she went to get the WoW figured it out, knew what the plan was. And the way Johan describes it is the WoW shrieked. And that's what popped everybody's heads. Like, everybody connected to the network, at least in that facility, to, the WoW blew up their heads to try and stop this woman who was going to deliver the gel. But that just happened to be the vial of structured gel that you grabbed from the cabinet up there. That's why Johan Ross said, "Oh, you did it. You have it. I will make the preparations."
Yeah. Also why he let you in and why they wanted in there. It wasn't a trap. He wasn't luring you into the back of a van, except to give you some really good speakers.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah.
So, now that you have this, he says, like, you are a venomous snake. You are a snake. Strike at its heart. He wants you to shut down the WoW. Shows you where it's at. You can see kind of its original like nesting place where it's like grown and broken free of its like little structure and stuff. And this also is a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this. And both times I played the game, I did this.
Yeah.
There's a real argument that the WoW is going to figure shit out and is a hope for terrestrial humanity.
Yes, that something would emerge from WoW, literally like life emerged from the sea before, that the WoW could, keep us safe until the surface is habitable again, and we would walk up to land and start something different. Like we have the mines, we have all the scans and stuff. We could start doing this. And yes, everything that WoW is doing is unpleasant. It looks horrific. It is completely painful to go through. There are all kinds of things, but like natural evolution, each of us, we're standing on top of just a mountain of charnel house awful, right?
Yeah.
All of our existences are predicated on countless deaths, right? How different is that than what the WoW is doing?
Yeah.
So, like it's up to your interpretation. Do you gamble that? Do you let the WoW continue to torture the assembled minds of humanity that it has around? Or do you stop this? Or so do you let him continue torturing, or do you stop it, put an end to it, and invest the future of humanity entirely in this, glorified tombstone that you're launching into space?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I kill the WoW because it sucks. But
but it's also like not only to your point that it could eventually create something that would crawl onto the sea. You are the WoW's latest creation.
Yes,
you the player, and you've been doing pretty good.
Yeah,
you're not insane. You're industrious and hardy and like all of these things, and you are now in like a deep sea suit that could probably handle being on the surface as well. Like if you want more of you, like the WoW is the answer to that. it might take a really long time, but yeah, it's arguable. Like, it is presented as, I love that they present this as a choice. I feel like a weaker game would not have done that.
Yeah.
Like, it takes, I'm not saying it's like absolute brain genius level, smart edition, but like you have to, the game does not underline the fact that the WoW could be correct.
Right.
That takes like, the fact that this game is so haunting and is going to, the puzzle pieces are going to ruminate in your brain after you play it, kind of made me think about that after I played it.
Yeah. There's really no, there's really no evangelist for the WoW at this point. Like, Terry Akers was doing his own thing, but he never spoke directly to you. You saw the evidence of this. You have Johan, who understands the WoW better than anybody, but he still sees it as a threat, and he is the person who gives you what you need to take it out. The WoW cannot speak for itself. You have to put it together based on the evidence that you have seen that this might not be a dead end in a way that the simulation, effectively like is a dead end. The people who are on it, there will never be more people unless you make artificial ones. Like, the world can actually change. You can make new ones. It is fake. And does that matter? I don't know.
and they're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Like the beautiful tombstone that humanity gets of these last remaining humans living in an eternity of paradise can exist alongside these growing pains.
Yes.
That happen at the bottom of the sea that might be the future of our race, whatsoever in a meaningful way. Like, really heady shit. And
the cost to allowing the WoW to continue is, more of what happened to you and more of what happened to Brandon. Lots of very
iteration.
Yeah, lots of painful iteration. And will you co-sign that? Will you enable it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Will you condemn those people to that?
Great stuff. If you decide to kill the WoW, you do it by fisting the ultimate anus. And when you do, you fist it so hard that you pull your arm back and it's just a stump.
Yes.
This anus bites back. It's anal ventata. Dentata. Teeth too. Butt dentata. This doesn't hurt you or anything. You're fine. Ross appears and he's like, listen, I'm going to have to kill you because you have the poison gel. You're going to be immune to this new pattern. You're the last little bit of the WoW.
Right.
So you have to die.
He promises to make it quick. And we get this is the first time we get a physical look at him. One of the most upsetting looking things in the game, because he mostly has like a human form, but he has just like tubes going into every single hole in his head. Like, it's pretty rough. He's about to come and end you when this huge creature reaches up through the floor and munches him. This is the final monster that we have to deal with, aside from Catherine's lies. This is the Leviathan that is here, kind of a combination squid whale kind of thing.
Yep, the squid and the whale.
Ooh.
And you run away from it along the ocean floor, hiding for it to pass over, just to get to 5 for the kind of climax of the game.
Right.
Here. So you get there, you plug Catherine in. She's like, what happened to your arm? You look down, see this like gross meaty stump, and you're like, never mind that.
The animation for you climbing a ladder is so painful looking.
Yeah. Did you ever see Ready or Not?
No.
It's good. That is a really fun movie, and that has some good ladder climbing. If you're a fan of that IMDb tag.
Cool. All right.
Ladder climbing while compromised. It does a good job.
Yeah. I'll take your word for that. Yeah.
So you head over to Phi. Here.
Yes. You recover the Ark, and you need to guide it to the shell assembly space. And there's a sad little scene here. There's a body on the floor, and it's in a suit. When you data mine it, you hear this argument about the launch. The dude here is insisting that it is way too risky. The barrel is damaged. His plan is to say, all right, we have a few decades of power? That's enough. We can keep this on the ocean floor. It's fine. We don't want to risk humanity's last chance on firing this thing up a broken barrel and through an on-fire atmosphere and all of the debris that has been kicked up.
Yeah. Space gun. Listen to yourself. And Catherine tries to force a way past to launch the Ark anyway, but a man named Ian brains her.
Yes. And that's the body. That's who you have been. That's who you've been listening to. And Ian insists that it was an accident, but it was very much a reflex. He saw her going for the arc and he protected it.
Mm-hmm.
In Omni-Tool, Catherine takes this very personally when Simon breaks the news. Yeah.
Of course, she does. Like, oh, this was my work. It didn't get done because of this fucko.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to clean it up. Simon says, like, hey, how much of a gamble really is this? Like, we have our decades underwater or thousands of years in space. And Catherine, says a theme out loud. Like, this is never about certainty. It's about hope.
Yes.
AKA faith, AKA, humanness.
Yes. So you grab your Omni-Tool and Catherine lays out the plan. What we're going to do is, you operate the space gun by a pilot seat. She can rig it up so that you will get the scan and do the transfer when you fire the gun, like at Omicron.
At the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like at Omicron.
Ties it to the same button.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like at Omicron.
Yep. So you pilot the shell into the gun. You watch the upload progress. As it's creeping to 100%, as the room is shaking and stuff. It's very climactic. It's not getting there quite. Simon's like, what's wrong? Catherine says, be patient. And it gets there right before the thing launches. Gets to 100% progress bar.
Yeah. And Simon's all like, woo, he's popping bottles. Like, it's good.
Yep. And top models. But then he wakes up and he's still there. And I love everything from this point on, basically. Like, I love this so much. He's like, what happened? What went wrong? And she says, nothing went wrong. Like, they're out there. We're here. We lost the coin flip. I can't keep explaining this. And he, I think in a way that is frustrating because, again, he's been explaining this a lot, but understandable because when you think about what he's doomed to, does not accept this. Like, we went through all that work. Like, are you fucking crazy? We're not going to die down here while those fuckers up there live it up large. Like, they're not us.
Yeah. Like, everything that was theoretical became very, very real for him when he came out on the wrong side of it. Right.
Like flattening something in Illustrator or something like that.
Right.
Like, it is now true. And he starts freaking out. Like, fuck you, fuck this, fuck you, Catherine. You lied to me. And she's like, I did not lie to you. I cannot be responsible for your ignorance. And I read this differently. This could be like, I want to check your memory versus mine.
Yeah.
I don't think that he smashes the Omni-Tool. It happens when she's screaming at him. I think that stressor thing.
Yeah.
Like, killed her.
Okay. Like, it pulled the plug just because she got so activated. I read it as him like breaking her essentially.
Like, it is. I mean, I would have to watch it again to make sure. But either way, this is unbelievably tragic on many levels,
right?
Because these are two people who had been through all this stuff together. This person you dared to care about, and your last moment is feeling betrayed by this person. Her last moment is being so exasperated and either being struck by violence by this person, or being so exasperated by their ignorance that she shuts down. Yeah. She's trying to brightside it when this happens. Like, she's like, hey, we did a good thing. She is trying to hold on to this last little bit of like dignity. Yeah. And you, the raging asshole, cannot allow that for either reason. Either because you smash it.
You're throwing a tantrum. Yeah.
You're throwing a fit because you have not come to terms with the same things Catherine has come to terms with. Yeah. It's not enough for you that you possibly saved humanity. Like, when faced with death, everyone is kind of a selfish prick, right?
Yes.
Like, that is a theme of a lot of things, and then also bears out in a lot of ways, like end of 1984 shit. Like, do it to her, don't do it to me, so then he sees that she's shut down. It's all going dark, and he just says, Catherine, don't leave me alone.
Yeah. So sad.
Just absolutely gutting. Like, he deserved it, but also nobody deserves it.
Yeah.
Like, he did it, but he didn't deserve it.
It's more suffering than should have been apportioned out.
Should ever be apportioned out for anyone. Really. Like, it is a impossible to conceive of torture.
Yes. And he's alone. The last human is dead. Yeah. He has no company. The only options available to him are too bleak to consider.
Yep. Go hang out with some monsters.
Yeah.
There's a post-credit scene here. So you wait through the credits. It plays this beautiful music, and you wake up as other Simon.
Yeah.
On the Ark. You're in a pilot seat. You go in a human body. There is this beautiful wilderness. There's a terminal that has a survey about how you feel after being uploaded. You could do a version of this earlier.
Yeah.
I really love that they have you do it twice and your answers could change.
Yeah.
You know, you could see how you feel when you are down at the bottom of the sea, having woke up, not knowing that you have had a continuity break and are a robot, and now knowing it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
And and then you just walk through this beautiful wilderness until finally you go down to a dock and you see Catherine. You know?
Yep.
She calls out to you and you go up and you've made it.
She waves. You immediately recognize her because you have been through so much. She opens her arms, you know, and you run towards her, and then it cuts to the satellite. This is the satellite, and the Earth is choked with this like flaming debris and dust.
Yeah. In the past, I have said that that the way that it shows both endings is a little bit of a bugbear for me. And I have said it would be better. The thing that I would like for that I would have liked for them to do would be to like literally it is a 50-50. It's like, okay, which theater did I go see Clue in? It will show you one, either you dying miserable and sad at the bottom of the sea, or you get the ending where you're in the Ark and you go. I've come around to being okay with being shown both of them because both of them technically are true. It almost basically what I want is the 50-50 so that if you just get the one that is at the bottom of the sea, it is as bleak as possible. Because that's kind of what I'm here in Soma for. I've softened up on that. I'm fine with them being shown in sequence. And I don't know what to do with that thought about the coin flip. Because if it's a coin flip, it's just a lie. It just goes along with what Catherine was saying, which is not the way that it works.
Yeah, there's never, it's always going to be both.
Yeah.
You know, that duality is always there. I think that like the reason why this works to me, if I had played it and I only saw the Paradise ending, I would have a real problem with that because that would feel treacly and unearned. I think that the Paradise ending works because it is shown in contrast to like the bleakest thing I can possibly imagine. And the game is about that glimmer of hope, right? And that glimmer of hope already has so many fucking caveats in it. Like this is just a simulation that is running on a satellite that will never, like you said, never procreate, never change. It's the only thing left.
Yeah.
You know, let me have that, you know, because that is a tiny glimmer of altruism, and it casts light on like the act that you did as Simon and Catherine of like this very difficult and fully altruistic thing, even though you did not know you were being totally altruistic when you were doing it.
Right.
You know, Simon had to be kind of fooled with self-interest to do it, but Catherine didn't. Like Catherine woke up as a machine and decided to do something absolutely like beautiful on a historical scale.
Yes.
You know, something that like literally is an act of preservation, the likes of which no one else in human history has had a chance to do. You know, and giving you that little like, and boy, does it matter though, because with humanity being gone, that's a pretty big deal. That's maybe the biggest deal that can be.
Yeah.
You know,
stakes don't get much higher.
Stakes don't get much higher. So it is okay to have that little like, hey, it was maybe worth it. Like, you know, a lot of this game has been about getting you to think of a copy as being valid.
Yes.
You play a copy the entire game. You're valid, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you want good things for these copies? You know, Simon never got there. You know, I think with time he would have. Right. But Simon's pretty new to it. Like at one point during the end, he's like, this has been like the worst day of my life. And I'm like, yeah buddy, like this fucking sucks. You know, but maybe with like, you know, a few weeks or months, like he'd get it, you know, like, hey, I'm glad I did that. Yeah. You know, and he should be glad. And I'm glad as a player that like the game allowed me the opportunity to do this thing, you know, within the fiction of the game. Yeah. That is really romantic. Yeah. You know, and not in a love sense, but romantic in like a grandiose sense.
Yeah, there's an idealism to it, and there is, you know, a notion that there is a form of perfection achieved through the act.
Yeah. And if not even perfection, just existence, just anything, you know, and the arc was always going to be a thing, but if they left it up to your imagination, if it happened, especially with all the talk of the barrel being crooked and stuff, like this would not be a good ending if it just blew up and didn't work.
Right.
Like that isn't how stories work. Like, yes, it would be bleak. And there's part of me that's like, yeah, bleak me up, Buttercup. But no, like that's not, you can't go full black to that degree.
Yeah.
And not have it on that scale. Right. Like you and I both love the movie The Mist. The movie The Mist has one of the bleakest endings of anything, but humanity makes it.
Yep.
You know, it's not like, it's a really sad thing that somebody had to do, but it's a personal scale thing. You know, Silent Hill 2 has a really bleak ending, but it's something you did in the past.
Right.
And it's a personal scale. I think on this scale, going that bleak would read as pointlessly nihilistic to me.
Yeah.
It needed a tiny granule of sugar to like let this like absolute fuck ton of medicine you're being force fed to go down.
Yeah. You know, and like it does play into this idea that even in the face of an inevitable end, you know, when Simon talks about this, okay, it's a couple of decades versus, you know, a few thousand years, it's a gamble or whatever, it still speaks to something necessary about humans, which is to strive, right?
Yeah.
You know, just like it doesn't matter if it does not matter if it is temporary. It is important to build regardless.
And the fact that so many, you know, that Catherine, who is a copy, is the main advocate for this is really telling, right? Like this idea that we have to strive, that we have to get up the next day and try is something the primary proponent of is a consciousness that's stuck in a Game Boy. You know, like it is, you know, that humanity comes with us, you know, in insofar as this game asks questions about the soul, like, again, Catherine did one of the most selfless, like altruistic acts in the history of the world, you know, during this. Like this is, she didn't risk as much as Simon did,
right?
But she, you know, even just in coming up with the idea, right? Like it was a beautiful idea. It's a very human idea, and it maintained even though she lost her body.
Yes.
You know?
So there was something good and essential that did come over with her from the scan into the machine.
And like what the game is trying to get you to come to peace with is that can be a valuable idea, even if it's not you. Like,
I'm fully on board with the copy being valid. Like,
yeah. I mean, I wasn't necessarily trying to convince you. I just meant in general, right? Like the game wants you to activate those empathy centers, even for things that you wouldn't traditionally have empathy for,
right?
Even if you don't get to benefit from them, you know. And that's an idea I can get behind. Like that very much speaks to my worldview.
Yeah. The line like, oh, we're down here while those fuckers are living it up there. Like that feels that I don't know what it means, but it feels very conscious to put that in there. Like Simon as the person on the, you know, on the poorer side of the deal, right? He got the short end of the stick, who immediately draws an us-them comparison about that. Like he immediately resents the people on the Ark in a way that Catherine does not. She has come around and accepted it.
Yeah. And I really honestly think that a lot of that is a function of time, right?
Yeah.
Like if the last human had been on life support for about a year, you know, some of these ideas are not something you're going to acclimate to right away.
Right.
Which, you know, to me, papers over quite a bit of my issues with, you know, Simon's, you know, he just learned this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several times explained to him very clearly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I really love this game. Like, you know, taking a look at it, 2015 was a big year for games. We got Bloodborne and Witcher 3.
Metal Gear Solid 5. Yep.
Metal Gear Solid 5. I like this more than any of them other than Bloodborne or Witcher 3. I think this is a much better game than Metal Gear Solid 5. I think this is pretty firmly my number 3 slot for the year. Like, I just don't play games that deal with this shit.
No.
You know?
This
doesn't really happen.
This is ambitious in its strives, you know, in a way that feels like it is in the same neighborhood and or zip code of Disco Elysium in terms of asking and providing not answers, but very, very meaningful explorations of ideas and questions that are not really explored in games or not explored this well. Yeah.
Yep. Adore it. if you are listening to this so far, I don't know how worth this is to go through once it's been fully spoiled. But, if you decide to give it a chance, I do think these are fun, good, crunchy ideas.
Yeah, and even just as an experience of playing it, like, the stuff you're doing is good, the pursuit sections are scary, like, it's visually impressive in a way that we can't really convey just describing the way the monsters look and things like that. And like the performances are good, like there's not really a bum voice performance in the cast either, and there are like lots of conversations and deeper kind of looks at some of these ideas that, again, we just couldn't convey as it goes. This is a game that has a lot of text that we just kind of necessarily need to gloss over in representing it here. So like I would say it is still worth playing, even if you know what's going to happen. That would be what I would throw in. My suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. So good game. Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you. Yeah. Will Resident Evil 5 be as meaningful?
Will Doom 3 be as meaningful? Only time will tell.
Find out next week.
I think it's pretty safe to say that outside of Disco Elysium, we're not going to have another game this year that's like this, and that asks these kind of questions. And then prior to this, like, I don't know, Pathologic or something. Yeah. Like these kind of things are rare. Rare treats.
Yep.
Next episode is going to be on Resident Evil 5. Beef Boy and Sidekick.
I forgot how good Chef is.
Through Africa. Yeah, Chef is great. Yeah. Beef. I don't like Chris very much in it.
Nope.
I haven't liked Chris really since Resident Evil 1. Chris kind of blows. A little bit. But it'll be fun.
Yep.
And then after that, Doom 3, as we mentioned.
Yes, Doom 3 will be our premium episode. What that means is the full episode will be available for our patrons. If you're listening on the public feed, you will get the generalities. So we will talk about the mechanics, we'll talk about the development of the game, its reception, things like that. But the beat by beat will be available. And if you want to get that, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That is at the $5 tier. You don't just get that month's. You actually get access to every premium WAF.
Yeah, all the old ones as well. If you want to write in about any of October's games, you can do so if you write in to duckfeed.tv/contact by October 15th. If you have anything to say about November's games, which are No One Lives Forever, Uncharted Waters 2, or Marathon 2 Durandal, hit us up by November 15th at that same address.
Yes. Please, if you're writing about multiple games, separate your responses. Do one about each. That really just helps us put the episode together when we put the dispatch notes together. We appreciate that. Otherwise, though, things you can do, you can leave ratings or reviews, and it's been a while since we said this, tell your friends. If we're on like month 7 of quarantine, at least here in America. If you got people who are looking for content, pass them along. If you know that they like a game that we have covered, send them a link. Say, hey, you might like these guys.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. Yeah. Until next time, what should they watch out for? Cole.
The Bleak.
The Bleak.